Okay, let me just... What was I doing here? I was just gonna look at... Okay. Good. Good like good. So I go to this. And I'm ready. Okay, so... Okay, this is gonna be the log review stream number 2. This is the second Sunday of March. Considering to do another log review stream on the 26th. Perhaps it will happen, perhaps it won't. It depends on how I feel. At least a log review stream by the 2nd of March again. But somewhere within these 3 weeks I'll probably do another one if people feel so inclined to want it. Either way, hey guys, how's it going? Early stream? I'm on early by like 5 minutes. By like 5 minutes I'm on early, so it's not really that long, so I can just close this. So either way, gonna be doing it the same way as last time with the raffle thing, but for those who are early, you can post your logs if you want. I don't mind. I'll totally look at them because there's not that many people here yet. But hey guys, oi, good morning. It is an early Sunday, early Sunday, but either way, yeah, basically just gonna be chilling. Losing that hour of sleep though. DST is legal. Yeah, I know, right? Oh well, it's okay. It's okay. I'm just gonna be... Basically, I'm gonna do this. Probably will only do it for about 2 hours, I think. 2 hours of log review is probably good enough. I'm gonna take a nap, and then I'm gonna have Mythic Raiding tonight, so it's gonna be a pretty busy day for me. Because the Mythic Raid is very long, right? Like, the Mythic Raid is gonna take me, like... I don't know. Like, 5-6 hours, because we're doing every boss, right? We start with... obviously, we start with... What's it called? Alright, thanks, Taxi. We'll start with this. But either way, right, we start with Scorpion, and then we just move from there, right? And we're gonna try to one night clear Nighthold, right, in like 6 hours. So that'll be a fucking task and a half, right? Each boss fight takes like 10 minutes, so we basically have to one shot everything if we're gonna clear it one night. Not one shot everything, but maybe have like 1 or 2 wipes on Elisand, 1 or 2 wipes on Gul'dan, call it a day, you know? You streaming Raid today? I might be. I'd be gentle. I might be. I'm not 100% sure yet, though. It depends. You sound horrible. Is the sound quality bad? I don't think it's that bad. Does I sound tired? I don't know. Either way, yeah, we're gonna be doing all of Nighthold and things. Alright. Thanks, Hakunu. Alright, let's start with these 3. Oh shit, what is this? What is this? Which one do you want me to do? I can't do all 10 of them. Oh, on Gul'dan? Okay, this is Gul'dan. Here we go. Okay. I'm assuming this is Taxi on Star Augur Heroic. Okay. This is Chronomatic Anomaly Mythic. And this one is Gul'dan. Oh, you died. That sucks. It looks pretty good, though. I mean, there are portions here, but I mean, and here. I guess this kind of makes sense. Is this where... Either way, we'll figure it out. Hasn't had his coffee yet? You sound tired and sick? Oh. I'll feel more awake in a little bit. I woke up like an hour ago. I'll feel more awake in a little bit. So, just give me like 15 minutes and I'll wake up. Alright, we'll start with Star Augur. This is a great boss for an Affliction Warlock in particular. It really highlights the strengths of an Affliction Warlock because of the way the fight works. So, if you guys don't know how Star Augur works, basically it's pure single target all the way up until phase 3. And in phase 3, Voidlings spawn and an additional ad spawns, and the boss is at like 20% health execute phase, and you just fuck him in the ass. So this is a really perfect example of how Affliction Lock is like super overpowered in situations where there are little ads that spawn that you can generate Wrath of Consumption and Reap from, because the way that Affliction works is when ads die, you gain like 20% damage, and not only do you gain 20% damage, you also gain 10% damage from the Soul Stealer, and not only do you gain that 10% damage, you double all of your traits. So obviously we can see here that effect happening where he's just doing well over 1 million DPS, close to 3 million DPS in phase 3 from 3 minutes and 45 seconds onward. He's just fucking destroying, like absolutely demolishing the boss, okay? So this is a good log. He did a 99% parse. He did 849,000 DPS. In terms of RNG, he went fucking crazy with RNG. So if you guys don't know, I'll bring out a calculator really quick. So if you guys don't know, the way that you can calculate how many Fatal Echoes you got was you take the number of UAs you cast, you multiply it by 4. So he had 180 ticks of UA based off his casts, and he had 251 hits, meaning he had 71 Fatal Echoes, which correlates to about 20 UAs. So he had about 50% Fatal Echo RNG, which is nuts. 50% is obviously a very big number, but either way, we'll look at his relative uptime. So his Drain Soul uptime was very good, right? 42.3%. That's reasonable for a Malefic Grasp build on Stargr. So, I mean, just by looking at the log, it looks pretty good, right? He's not like overusing UAs in phase 1. This is basically what you want your target dummy to look like, right? If you were attacking a target dummy, and Stargr is basically a target dummy in raiding, right? Especially on Heroic in the first 2 phases, the Frost and the Fel phase, there's absolutely nothing going on aside from single target. This is like the perfect, like how your single target should look, right? You have your 3 dots, you cast UA a couple times, and then you drain. And that's just like the pattern for the whole thing, right? You 3 dot, you UA 2 times and you drain, or 3 times and then drain, and then UA and then drain. This is just a UA for movement. It's totally fine. Dot UA drain, dot UA drain, right? It's just the pattern just flows throughout, right? I mean, it could look a little cleaner, right? But I mean, there's movement, there's stuff happening, there's mechanics, whatever, right? It looks good overall, right? The life taps happen in good places before or after the cycles, right? So it looks good. Looks good. So that's obviously what you want your fuck, what is happening? What is this? Life tap. So that's what you want your UAs to look like on a pure single target phase, okay? And now he's starting, this is where he begins to go into Bloodlust, okay? So in this stage here, he's thinking about Bloodlust happening, right? Because Bloodlust happens for him, oh shit. Bloodlust happens around here, right? And this is where they're going to be burning the boss really quickly. Bloodlust happens for him about here. So you see he's starting to use less UAs around this proportion of the log. If we look at his buffs, he also, well, Reap isn't really saved and his pot's kind of used. Well, we'll look at that later. But either way, he starts to use less UAs as to build up shards for Bloodlust to make sure he has a significant amount of shards. And this isn't bad, okay? Like, I know I say that doing the 3 and 4 stacks is bad, but when you're fighting against Stargr and you have 20 stacks of Wrath of Consumption and you have Infinite Reap, you might as well just fucking go for it, because if you get all of those UAs to reset while you're doing 20% more damage and you know the fight is only going to last another 30 seconds, you're not going to fuck yourself over on shards, and if you get lucky with Fatal Echoes, you're just going to fucking destroy the boss. So it's not a bad thing to do, is to dump a lot of UAs, especially during Bloodlust, especially when you have those Wrath stacks, but outside of it, like, this is what you want your log to look like, right? Like, this is good. If we look at his buffs, the major thing that he obviously could have improved on is his pot use. I feel like, I mean, sometimes, sure, in the fight, this is a decent time to use your pot. Maybe you're proccing a lot, maybe you have a crazy amount of Reap, but just based off the log, right, if we were just look at his Reap uptime, and then we were to look at his Potion of Prolonged Power uptime, you'll note that he started with a lot of Reap. Obviously, this is like starting with 12 stacks or whatever. That's why this is so fucking nutty. But here, he didn't even have any Reap during his pot, right? Like, it would have just been better to pot in phase 3 during Bloodlust. So if you just shift this over into the Bloodlust phase, it would have been better. Just because that's when you're doing all of your damage, obviously, right? Like, this would have just been better used here instead of here. Even if you are proccing, you still just want to save it for less for the most part. It's where you're going to get the most benefit. Plus, your Doomguard is just hitting harder, right? Yeah, your Doomguard's just hitting harder in this execute phase. So if you just like move this over here, that would be better. But I mean, obviously you did well in this fight. You had insane RNG in terms of, one, you had a lot of Reap, and two, your Fatal Echoes were disgusting. But I mean, aside from that, it looks good, man. This is how you want to be playing on Starger. The only thing I can recommend is just like change your pot usage. Yeah, looks good though. Looks good. Looks good. Looks a good. Hey guys, what's up? Hey Kalimbo. That was negative Whispers proc. Oh, okay. But yeah, either way, it looks good. Looks good. Alright, we have a Gul'dan fight here from Furukos. And he said he was having trouble on this fight, so we'll take a look. Just by seeing, like, in the very beginning, it looks like you're struggling on the first ads. Well, maybe not. Let me see. One second. Let me just take a look at your gear first so I can get a relative idea. So you are an 896, but that doesn't mean a whole lot. Let's just take a look at your summary. So you have the Power Chord and Norganins. Your mastery is fairly low relative to your crit and haste. That's because you have the Power Chord. It doesn't have any mastery on it. Also, the 4 set might be fucking you. You have pretty good 4 set. You have the chest, pants, gloves. Oh, you only have 3 set. Do you? Am I missing something here? Oh no, you have 4 set. Yeah. So no, your gear's good. You have whispers, urn. I would just recommend dropping. I don't even know. Maybe this. Oh, you have the 2-piece. Yeah. I would just recommend, like, you definitely need a new helmet, right? Like, crit. You definitely need to drop some crit and haste for some more mastery. But aside from that, whatever, it's fine. Your gear's okay. So on this boss, you probably could do about 600k maximum. You're probably on track for that, honestly. You died in the last, for a minute, and your DPS was still 400k, so that's pretty good. But yeah, we'll take a look at your cast, because it's hard to tell based from this log how you're doing. I can tell instantly that your drain uptime is low. That's the one thing that I noticed just by looking at your percents. Your drain uptime is extremely low, especially if you're running a build like you are running. So typically on Gul'dan, you should be getting between like 38 to 40% drain soul uptime. So that's probably something you can improve on, whether it be just by movement mechanics. Yeah, your uptimes on your dots is just lower than normal because you died. But yeah, your drain uptime definitely could be better. I mean, I know it is a little bit lower because you did die, but still. We'll just look at the section of the fight where you were alive real quick. It could still be higher, right? Like 33%. Like even if we look from here on, right? Still could be higher. Even if you look in this section, even, right? If we were just to look in this section, it could still. I mean, it's decent, right? 40%, but it could still be better. It still could be better. Still could be better. Okay. Either way, let's look at your casts. So in phase 1, generally speaking, the things you want to be doing with dots is very efficient. You do cast 3 Seeds of Corruption in phase 1, though, okay? I don't recommend using Seed of Corruption in phase 1 more than once unless the ads are going to be living for a long period of time. It's not efficient to cast Seed of Corruption when all 3 of them are out. You're better off Unstable Afflictioning, okay? So in phase 1, when all 3 of them are out, basically your goal is you don't really want to worry too much about Siphon Life until at least one of the ads are dead. Obviously, when the first ad spawns, you can Siphon Life him for your first cycle. But basically the way that Gul'dan's going to go, right? Okay, you pull Gul'dan. You put your 3 dots on Gul'dan, you UA him once or twice, and then you drain. He casts the Hand of Gul'dan, right? The first ad spawns, and then you dot him. So you maintain Agony on Gul'dan, you have your 3 dots on the new ad, and then you do a drain cycle on that new ad. Now, Gul'dan is going to cast another Hand of Gul'dan. What you do is you Agony that ad, you keep your 3 dots on the one that just spawned, or you 3-dot the Inquisitor if that's what your guild is killing. You do a drain cycle on him. He casts the 3rd ad, and then what you do is you cast a Seed of Corruption on the main ad to maintain Corruption on all 3. You maintain Agony on all 3, and then you pick the highest target and you drain cycle it down, okay? You don't want to be casting Seed of Corruption 3 times in the opener because it's just such a loss of DPS to do this, especially when you're not running Sow the Seeds. Each of those is only hitting for like 700, 800k. When you look at damage done, the average cast of your UA is doing 2 million, right? So you're losing, like, every single shard that you're casting there, you're losing, like, 1 million damage overall, right? Which is quite significant. I mean, even over a 10-minute pull, 1 million damage may only be 1k increase on DPS, but when you're doing it 3 times, and if you're wasting more throughout the fight, you know, it all adds up in the end. So you want to make sure that you're playing efficiently at all points in the fight, so that's probably something that you can do a little bit differently, at least in the opener, right? In terms of UA casts, it doesn't look too bad. There are portions of the fight where you're not casting at all. I'm assuming, I mean, this is obviously, these right here, at the 6-minute mark and at the like 1 minute and 30-second mark are when Gul'dan is immune. Whatever, I understand you can't cast, and probably, well, actually, no, he should probably be going immune around here, 9 minutes. I'm not sure, but there's portions of the fights where you're really not casting UA for an extremely long period of time. Like this here was over 40 seconds without casting a UA, right? Like this shouldn't be such a big gap. I'm not sure it's because you used too many shards. I'm not sure if it's because you like casted too many UAs here and casted too many UAs and you starved yourself and now you have nothing. It might be because eyes spawned. I mean, eyes did spawn here. But still, 40 seconds is an extremely long time to go without casting a single drain cycle, right? You know the eyes are going to spawn. If you have an add-on that tells you, right, you have a 10-second warning, you know, eyes are spawning in 10 seconds. Get one more cycle in before the eyes spawn, you know. You can cast 2 UAs and do a full drain cycle in 10 seconds, and then after the end of that, you just, you know, you cast your Seed of Corruption, throw out some agonies on the ads, and then gain procs via that, right? So you never really want to go, like, these huge stretches that you're going. I know it's when the ads are spawning because that's when you're casting your seeds. But there's honestly a lot of big stretches with Gul'dan being immune where you're not doing cycles, right? And that you don't want that to happen. You want it to look like a smooth, like very consistent. Like here, right? Like very consistent. Like every, you know, 15 seconds you're doing a cycle. But here it becomes more staggered, right? And you don't want to see that. Like here, right? Every 15 seconds you're doing a cycle. But then ads spawn. And you kind of take a little bit of time to get back into it, which, you know, sometimes does happen, but even when the additional ad spawns, you want to make sure that you're continuing to use your cycles. You want to keep doing damage, right? So that's really important to note on Gul'dan. So if we look at your buff up time, you had average reap up time because you don't have the cloak. So your reap up time was average. Your Wrath of Consumption was very good, so you're doing a really good job maintaining your Wrath, which is really nice. The only thing I can say is when you have that Wrath, make sure that you're using your UA cycles, right? Because it looked like when you were doing it, you weren't really using them that efficiently. But yeah, I mean, your Wrath of Consumption is good. That means you're dotting the I's, you're getting the benefit from that ability, but you just need to make sure that you're utilizing that a little bit better, right? Also, your second pot, just like line it up with Bloodlust. Use it a little bit late. That might just be because you forgot about it or something. It happens. I mean, sometimes I fuck up my pot too, but make sure your pot aligns win or 25 seconds before Bloodlust, okay? Make sure that happens. But yeah, in terms of cast, like, you did a good job overall, honestly, aside from the portions where you weren't really DPSing the boss. I'm not sure if it's because you shard fucked yourself. I'm not sure what happened, but if you can, one, stay alive, obviously if you stayed alive, you would have done more DPS. But if you can just, like, limit the amount of times where you're going without doing DPS and also kind of clean up your phase 1 a little bit, it will look a lot cleaner overall. And you only had 3 uses of the buff. You can definitely get more than 3 uses of the fast buff on the fight. But yeah, either way. Ijove. Hey, Bruiser, what's up, man? How you doing? How you doing today? It's a beautiful day in Canada today. Anyways, last log of the cycle. This is Hakunu on Chronomatic Anomaly. He managed to pull 766,000 DPS, which isn't that bad. Did you have Reap to start? You did. And Prolong. And Bloodlust. So yeah. Probably could have done a little bit more damage here. There are these portions again where you're really just not doing a whole lot. But we'll take a look. Anyways, the main thing that you notice here is your drain up time is just so low, right? The fight only lasts 4 minutes and 16 seconds. But your drain up time is 30%. You really, especially when you're playing on Chronomatic Anomaly and you only have 3 dots to manage, your drain up time really should be a lot higher. That's one thing that I definitely can recommend that you improve on, is just get higher drain up time. Like, low drain up time is, with Malefic Grasp especially, is something that you can't afford to do. So if we look here, you're only casting drain like after UA cycles, but there's like kind of big gaps, right, where you're fucking yourself. And I think honestly, the part of you not having a lot of drain up time is you casting too many UAs, right? Like don't do this. Like don't constantly stack 3 if you can. Like do 2 and then 2 and then 2. That's just gonna lead to higher drain up time. If you're stacking like 4 or 5 UAs and then you're kind of fucking yourself on shards and then you're only using like 1 1 1, like here you casted like 5 UAs, right? And then you had no shards for like the next like minute, right? That's not good. Here again, you casted like 4 UAs and you had to wait a whole nother like 40 seconds before you could do it again. And by doing this, you're wasting so much time casting UA that you're not having enough time to sit there and drain soul, because either a mechanic is happening or some sort of something is going to happen that's going to cause you to move, and you're not going to have like the clean cycle of doing 2. You're just going to have like one big cycle, and it's not as efficient because you're losing UA time, right? So if we look at your damage done, your UAs on average are doing like 2.09 million. They could probably even be doing more than that if you were just casting less UAs less often. Well, less UAs but more often, and really improving your drain up time. I think you were getting all of your UAs within drain, which is good. Obviously, aside from the ones that would just fade or you miss ticks on because you're casting too many. And your peaks look good. It's just too inconsistent, right? It's way too inconsistent, and you don't want inconsistency, especially when playing a spec like Malefic Grasp, because you're going to be doing different damage every single time you pull the boss. And as an Affliction Warlock, being consistent is very important on every pull, right? You don't just want to really pop off on one pull. You want to be able to do high DPS on every single pull that you do. But yeah, I mean, this could probably just be fixed by movement. This might be during the slow phase as well. I mean, I'm almost 100% this is the slow phase of the boss. So I mean, it's fine to be doing low damage here, but still, you still want to be going off with some cycles. And the reason your damage is low here is because you casted like 5 UAs right here, right? Casted like 5 UAs and then fucked yourself on shards for like a minute, and then you went back to casting a lot, right? Try not to do that. But yeah, just improve drain up time, improve consistency, and you'll probably end up doing better on a boss like this with the amount of reap you had, right? Did you say last one? No, not the last one. I'll still be doing more here. But yeah, let's pick some. Draw. Bam. Alright, let's copy this. Boom. I'll just pick like 5. But yeah, I'm going to be doing this until 2 o'clock my time. So you guys can see the time down in the bottom right hand corner of my screen. It is currently 11:17 a.m. So yeah. Alright, we have 4. That's good enough. So we have Grand Magistrix, Gul'dan, Starger. Wait, what? Did I pick the same one twice? No. 2 Stargers, 1 Grand Magistrix. Okay. This looks like a good log. I'm assuming you are Necromonger on Gul'dan. This is Zir on Starger. And we have Zarlok on Starger as well. So, let's begin with Grand Magistrix. So, I've never really reviewed a Grand Magistrix log. They're kind of hard to touch on. But either way, this boss is a little bit of a bitch for an Affliction Warlock. And the reason it's a bitch is because there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of times where the boss isn't in range and there's adds are spawning. And you really don't get a lot of benefit from the haste buff as an Affliction Warlock. Because your dots don't actually tick any faster, which kind of blows ass. Either way, this looks like a good log. I think you did good damage on this. Yeah, you parsed 97%. So you did well. Especially for your item level. 900's relatively low. Compared to like really high-end parses like the 800k, right? You're doing well for your item level. If you look at your summary of your gear, your stats are really well statted, so you have nice gear. Obviously Safuz could be improved on, but other than that, I mean, your gear's awesome, right? Damn, dude, Titanforge Whispers 905. Fuck me, dude, that's lucky. All right, either way, this looks like a good log. Obviously, your drain up time is lower on this boss because we see these kind of situations where you're not even able to drain the boss. But, I mean, if we were just look at these portions of the fight, right? Your drain up time isn't that bad. 32%, and not only that, like, Elisand is, like, running around all over the room, and there's ad spawning. There's a bunch of fucking bullshit happening to this fight. So, your log looks good. If we look at your buffs... I mean, for having only 30% harvest time, you did really well. You were dotting the ads. Let's see how you were doing it. So now I want to look at casts. So yeah, your buffs look fine. So if you look at your casts, it's not that bad, right? Like you do 3. Like if we were to look closer at like a situation like this, right? You do 3 and then you drain, and then 3 and then drain, and then drain, and then drain, and then 2 and then blah blah blah, right? It doesn't look that bad. Obviously, there's situations where you're casting more UAs, but that's okay on this fight because a lot of the times you're going to be generating so many shards, and Elisand's going to be flying all over the place that it's just going to be hard to use them all. So it's not bad to dump a lot when you have the option to dump a lot of shards, right? So, yeah, this looks like a good log. I just want to see what you were doing to the ads. So you were agonying them, agony Elisand. Recursive. Expedient. Were you corruptioning them too? Elisand. No, you weren't. So you were just agonying them. Did you attack them? Okay, so basically the way you were going about the fight, to me, looks like you were just dotting the ads, which is good. I think that's a good way to play. If I was running this build, I would probably play the exact same way, where I would only ever agony the ads. I would never really corruption them. It's not really worth your time, especially if your guild is killing the ads quickly, to dot them, so you're doing well on that, realizing that you're basically just using the ads for additional shard generation and Wrath of Consumption, because it's really inefficient for you as a Malefic Grasp Warlock to be like, you know, dotting multiple things and losing even more drain up time on a fight where it's hard to get drain up time to begin with. If I had one thing that I'd recommend you improve on is just trying to maximize a little bit better on this boss, especially on a heroic. The only reason I say that is because as an Affliction Warlock, make sure like you're setting up your port in a place where you can port out of the rings. So when the rings happen or whatever, you can always set up your port to where when they're coming in and collapsing around the room, you can just set up your port so when they pass your portal, you can demonic portal out of it. You can also just let them hit you if you're running demonic skin or something like that. It doesn't do enough damage to kill you as an Affliction Warlock, especially if you have Prada, as you don't in this scenario. But definitely make sure you're using your defensives to ignore mechanics on this boss if you're trying to parse higher. I mean, you already did extremely well, right? I'm assuming you're just trying to do better. The best way to do better is to ignore damage mechanics, and you can do that as an Affliction Lock. The mechanics on this fight won't kill you, so if you can, you know, set up your portal in a good position to where you can either portal over the rings or just run through a ring, it's going to allow you to get higher drain up time on this boss, right? Just positioning yourself in better places in order to when she does actually port away, you're still able to get drain soul up time to where you're still able to get damage off. And that's the one recommendation I would really have for you, just because your drain up time is under 30%, and a lot of that is having to do with her porting away. So the best way to kind of eliminate the fact that she's porting away from you is to just ignore the mechanic and get to her and just drain and just get hit by the rings, right? So that's my suggestion. Ignore mechanics and do more damage. I mean, it's playing well on this boss. You're playing well. It's just the only thing that you really need to worry about is just getting to the boss a little bit quicker and optimizing your drain soul a little bit better, right? And on Grand Master's Azelstruct, just like a general tip, right? Like, you know what's going to happen during the fight. Like, you know when rings are going to be coming. You know rings are coming, like, you know, a minute before they happen. Just make sure, like, 10 seconds before the rings happen, you know, that's your last cycle. You know, the rings happen. This is your last drain cycle. You know where she's going to be afterwards. Do the ring mechanic and then just instantly get back on her, plant your feet and start DPSing again, because after that, I mean, you really shouldn't be one of the range DPS going to the back to soak the orbs. I mean, it can happen, but overall, that's all I'm saying, right? So, in the end, that's what I recommend. Try to ignore mechanics, try to just be a little bit better about your drain cycles, because you can get consistent drain cycles on this boss. It can happen, so yeah. Yeah. Okay. Necromonger on Gul'dan Heroic. Was this a good parse? I forget. Alright, 475,000 DPS. You are 48 traits into your weapon. You have a good legendary and a whatever legendary. Norganon's actually isn't that bad on this fight. Norganon's is actually pretty good on this fight, I'm not going to lie. It has a drop chance percent of 0.17%. So does this one? What the fuck? Why does Norganon's have a drop percent? Drop from Patrol Captain Guerdo, drop chance 0.17. So you got it from Court of Stars? The fuck? Alright, whatever. That's kind of cool. But yeah, your gear's good. I can already tell your gear's good. You probably want a little bit more crit, but crit isn't necessary, especially with this build at all. So definitely some nice stuff. So you probably can be doing better. Let me just look at some things before I talk about it, though. You got pretty shitty Nefarious Pack procs this fight. It happens, though. Yeah, so the main thing that I'm seeing about this pull is your Bloodlust DPS is really poor, and there's probably a reason for that, and we're going to be seeing that. Like, your Bloodlust DPS should be your highest peak, not your lowest peak, right? Like, your Bloodlust DPS is almost your lowest peak on the boss fight when you guys are in Lust, so something must have happened here weird. We'll take a look. And we'll also look at your Phase 1 DPS. This is all fine, okay? From, like, here to here is good. I would say from here to here is your best portion of the fight, in terms of how much damage you're doing. The problem parts of this fight is the very first phase, and also when you guys lust, you don't have enough damage there. So let's look at what happened. So in terms of buffs for Bloodlust, you potted during Lust, that's good. You had decent harvest uptime during Lust. So I wonder what happened during Lust, what caused you to do such little DPS, because you're only doing like 600k during Lust, like you're not really max at like 500k overall, right? Definitely should be able to do more, so I'm assuming something weird happened, but we will find out. Okay. I think your biggest problem is right here of the fight, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Again, man, Everyone on Gul'dan seems to have such low drain up time. Let me just do something really quick. Let me just oh fuck. All right, let me just go to Gul'dan, okay? Let's just look at the top parse for Gul'dan. I don't have any of my good parses on Gul'dan. I don't have any of my parses that are good on Gul'dan, but we'll look at some top parses on Gul'dan, okay, for an Affliction Lock. We'll just look at the number 1 parse, okay? Look at his drain up time, okay? 40% drain up time, okay? Every time I look at your guys' logs on Gul'dan, you guys are getting like 20 to 29% drain up time. This is really what's separating you from being top of your item level or top of your class, right? An additional 10% drain up time, or even in this case, like 14% drain up time is huge, guys. It's huge. It's 14% of the fight. You're doing 70, like, think about it this way, okay? Sure, this Warlock has more gear than you, and sure, he got better luck than you overall, right? This guy had crazy good luck. Sure, all that stuff happened, right? But at the same time, you have to think about this, okay? 14% of the fight, this guy was doing 70% more damage than you were for 14% of the encounter. So that's like, just imagine for a second that for literally like 1/8 of the encounter, you were just dead. Right? That's the difference in drain soul up time. Just 1/8 of the encounter, you're just dead. You're not even able to DPS at all, right? So that's something really big that you guys need to be working on is your drain soul up time. Like 25% is not enough. Even if you are casting your drains at the end of every UA cycle, like your cycles are pretty consistent, right? Even if you are doing that, it's still not enough. If we were to look at his casts and we were to look at drain soul, just like look at it. It just covers the entire fight, right? And just also look at how consistent he is with his UA cycles, right? But it just covers the whole fight. When we look at your log for your drain soul, there's significant gaps and portions where it's just not enough. I'm not sure if you're like canceling it early or what's going on, but definitely need to be getting more drain because you're only really casting it towards the end of your UA cycles, and you're just missing out on a lot of DPS from that, honestly. But yeah, so that's one thing I can definitely recommend. The other mistake that I think you made on this fight, aside from the drain soul up time, was here. You casted 4 UAs before Bloodlust, and so during Bloodlust, you really didn't have that much damage. You only could UA 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Well, even during Bloodlust, you only UA'd 6 times, okay? That's not enough to UA during Bloodlust, and I think it's because you casted a shit ton of UAs just beforehand and you soul starved yourself. If we were to look at resources, and we were to look at soul shards, oh, you were high on shards during Lust. I don't know what happened, man. Maybe just a mechanic hit you? I mean, you went kind of low here, but you really just need to be casting more UAs during Bloodlust. even if mechanics are hitting you, even if you're getting the flames and stuff like that, even if an ad spawns, you really just need to plant your feet and cast your UAs. And if you have flames on you, just stutter step them, right? I mean, they only last like 5 seconds. Just stutter step them off with Drain Soul, and make sure you're getting those casts off, because casting 6 UAs during Bloodlust, that's just not enough. You can get way more than that. You can get like, you should be getting like between like 9 and 10 UAs during Lust easily. Easily. Let's see how many he got you during Lust. So during wait, is this Bloodlust? No, this is Bloodlust here. This is Bloodlust. So if we look at this guy's Bloodlust compared to yours, right? He casted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He casted 12. He casted 12 UAs during Bloodlust compared to your 6. So he was literally doing double your DPS in terms of Unstable Affliction during Bloodlust. So you need to make sure that you're saving shards for Lust, which you actually had, but you also need to make sure that you're using them. Even if the ad spawns and stuff like that, just make sure you're using your UAs and casting them. That's definitely one thing that you can improve on, though, is your Bloodlust DPS, because it's extremely low, right? Let's look at the fight. This should be like your highest peak, or one of the highest peaks, is during Bloodlust. But unfortunately, I think the ad spawned, and that kind of fucked you up on Bloodlust. But if the ad spawns, I mean, seriously just Corruption the ad, UA it 3 times, and then drain the ad if you really need to kill it. Like, just cast your UAs. You really need to be using them. Yeah, that's the one thing I can recommend. Also, at the beginning, again, your UA usage is fine in the beginning. Let me just see. So, what are you corruptioning? So yeah, again, you can probably be casting 1 Seed of Corruption when all 3 of the ads are out, just to get Corruption on all of them. It's not a huge deal. Your time dilations were fine. But yeah, that's the one thing I can recommend. Really, just if you optimize your Bloodlust DPS a little bit better, and you improve on your Drain Soul uptime, you're going to be doing a lot better DPS on this boss, for sure. You're also Soaking Souls. But Soaking Souls, you just stand there, right? Okay, so with Fell Bonds, Dr. Tremolo, right? Okay, think about Fell Bonds, right? You know when Fell Bonds are going to happen, okay? So what I tend to do on Gul'dan is like this, right? Okay, so you have the ad, okay, and so in phase 2, right? He does the phase 1, the 3 ad bullshits, whatever, right? You're in phase 2. And he spawns, he does Hand of Gul'dan, and he does an eye cast, okay? And then he does the fucking Empowered Bonds or whatever. So, what I do on Gul'dan is I look and know that he's going to cast Hand of Gul'dan in 10 seconds, okay? That is my last drain cycle on Gul'dan, the Hand of Gul'dan. That is my last drain cycle before the ad spawns. He casts Hand of Gul'dan, okay? I refresh my dots on Gul'dan. I refresh my dots on the new ad. I UA twice on the new ad and then drain, okay? After the new ad spawns, there's about a 10-second window that you have to get these 2 UAs off and drain before the eyes happen, okay? So you cast, or what you do that cycle on that, the eyes happen, you Seed of Corruption, the ad, or Gul'dan, whatever, you make sure you maintain your agony on both, that's all that really matters, and you just go about your UA cycles again, okay? 10 seconds before the Empowered Bonds come out, that should be your last cycle. Also, if your guild's not doing this, make sure you guys are kind of clumped in a tight pack for Empowered Bonds up by the boss, because it shoots you backwards, right? Like, the bonds come out and it shoots you backwards. So if you guys make sure that you're relatively, uniform in front of the boss, like maybe like 15 yards back, it's going to be a lot less movement for your whole group overall to go break people out of the bonds, okay? So that's one thing that you guys can probably improve on as a guild. But if you're just making sure that your cycles are lining up with the mechanics, it's just going to make the fight feel a lot more smoothly for you, right? So that's definitely one thing I can recommend on Gul'dan for you to deal with bond movement. Yeah. But yeah, during Bloodlust, definitely need to improve on that. I mean, Soaking Souls just means you just stand inside the thing, right? And if you have Flames of Sargeras, just like move out for like a couple seconds and just use the stutter step, right? Like just do the 2-step. Just like you have Flames of Sargeras, right? Cast 1 UA and then move and then drain and then move and then drain and then move and then drain and then move and then drain, right? You have time to do that. So you can kind of clip all of your ticks with the drain while not having great drain up time during it. You still are able to get decent amount and still get some damage out. But yeah, that's what I can recommend you improve on Gul'dan. Hey everybody, how you guys doing today? Good morning, friends. Okay, so Zir, Starger, Heroic. So this looks decent. You did an 82% parse with 685 kDPS. Looks decent. You're not really peaking as high as you could probably in this phase, but we'll see what happens. In terms of your gear, you have really good gear, especially for your item level. Your mastery is a bit high relative to your crit and haste, though. You probably want more crit and haste relative to your mastery, but no big deal. Yeah, your mastery is just, I think, too high. I would just get a little bit more crit or haste, but either way, not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. Your gear's good. So, for this particular fight, I want to look at your cast because I feel like you might be it looks pretty good. What happened to you? What happened to you, my friend? Okay. I think I know what happened to you on this fight. I think you actually did really well on this fight. The only thing is, I think you kind of got fucked on shard RNG. This can happen to anybody. Where you're kind of just like, you don't really do too much with UAs throughout the fight, and the most you ever cast is 3. Okay. This can definitely happen on fights where you're casting 3 UAs and you get fucked on shards. The one thing that I would recommend you do, Zir, because you did well in this fight, okay? I'm not gonna lie, you did well on this fight, okay? The only problem that you had on this fight was your resources. Your shards got very low early on, and you were never able to recover in terms of shards, right? You were never able to get back above 2 shards, okay? What I recommend you do is, if you look at your buffs, you didn't have Reap for like the entire fight, right? Try not to use 3 UAs if you don't have any Reap. Try to just use 2. Doing 2 UAs is not a bad thing. You don't always have to do 3. 3 isn't some magical number of UAs that you need to cast in order to optimize your DPS. Because that seems what you're kind of thinking, right? It's kind of to me, it seems like you're thinking, I need to cast 3 UAs whenever I can. And you really don't. 2 is totally fine, okay? There's no issue casting 2 UAs, okay? 2 UAs, you get 100% drain up time on both of those UAs, so you're maximizing your DPS around those 2 UAs. So when you find yourself sitting on a lower amount of shards, or even a higher amount of shards, and you don't have Reap, casting 2 is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. So I think a big part of the reason why you didn't do as well as you could have on this fight is because you just basically got unlucky with shard RNG. You didn't generate enough shards on this fight. You didn't have enough shards overall in order to UA the boss as much as you would like to. Because there's situations like this where you're only able to cast 1 UA for like a whole minute. And even here, there's situations where you're only able to cast 1 UA in your cycles for a whole minute. So the thing that I can recommend you to do is, on fights where you're not going crazy with Soul Conduit, just cast 2 if you don't have Reap. If you have Reap and you have an abundance of soul shards, cast 3. But there's too often in this fight where you're sitting on a low amount of shards and you're trying to cast more UAs than you can, and it's leading to situations where if you get lucky on RNG and you get the shards, you're going to do good damage. But if you get unlucky and your shards kind of fuck you, you're going to end up in situations where you're not able to do as much DPS as you would like, okay? So that's definitely the main issue that I see on this boss fight for you. In terms of casts, oops. In terms of casts, in Phase 3, if the Voidlings are stacked up, you only need to dot one of them to tag them all, because if you dot the lowest health one, they explode. You get the benefit, so that's just a thing to think about. Not really a big deal, though. But yeah, that's what I can really recommend you do a little bit better on this fight, is you just kind of fuck yourself on RNG, because honestly, you had a good parse. Like, your damage was good, you did a good job of spacing out your UAs, it's just these times where you're casting 3 when you're on a super low shard content, it's just, you probably just want to be casting 2 or even 1 UA, and just build up your resources, so when you have things like Lust, when you have things like Reap, you're able to do more damage than normal, right? Rip shards feels bad, man. Yeah, he just didn't have any shards for the fight, so that was really the main issue. So yeah, that's what I would recommend on this boss. Alright, next one. Zarlok. Okay, so this is Starger again. A lot of Starger bosses today. Let's see how you did. So for 888, I think you did pretty good. 888 is pretty low item level. You did 557 KDPS. That's really good. We look at your summary, you only have 35 traits. So I would say, first off, good job, man. Especially for only having one legendary, you're doing really well in this fight, doing 500 KDPS with 35 traits and one legendary. It's very, very good. Your gear's not perfect, but I would say you played this fight reasonably well. So good job. Good to you, my friend. And yeah, your UA dump looks good. Like, right, you're doing 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1. That's fine. Sometimes it happens. 2, 2, 3, 4. That's fine. It's Bloodlust. 4. Like, this is okay, right? Like, you're during Bloodlust, you're during the last phase, you have a lot of stacks and stuff. Casting a bunch of UAs is totally fine. But it looks like you really know what you're doing. You had 50% drain uptime. You did really well, man. With some better gear, you're going to be seeing some really good parses from you. So this is excellent. This is an excellent, excellent parse. If you guys are looking at a Warlock that does good damage, check out Zarlok, the 888 Warlock with one legendary. But yeah, you did really good damage, man. Your casts were really well. You spaced out your UAs well. You never really fucked yourself too hard on shards. Sure, there's like one time in the fight where you casted one UA, but I mean, it happens, right? Like with resources, you never really went overboard, right? I mean, you kind of couldn't because you were kind of fucked. But even when you were getting fucked, right, you were just casting 2, and then eventually, slowly over time, with Soul Conduit and stuff, your shards generally started to build up a little bit more, right? So, you did extremely well in this fight. There's not much for me to comment. Yeah, you played really good, dude. Good job. Kudos to you for fucking pumping the shit out of Starger with no gear. This is a really good parse. This is like top level shit, except you don't have gear. I'm not even kidding. Yeah, if we look at your buffs, I mean, you had really insane dead win ups time, right? Which is obviously you started the fight with some reap, but I mean, even outside of that, even with the additional reap you get at the end of the fight, you still had really high dead win ups time. But I mean, you maintained your Wrath of Consumption in phase 3. You lined up all your stuff really well. Like, look, hero. Look, if we just look at this, right? Like Wrath. This is why he does so much damage with no gear. Just look at all these modifiers, right? Just look at all these modifiers just lining up. Is there more that I'm missing? Did I add them all together? What is this? And prolonged. Look at all these things he's stacking together, right? If you're able to stack these together every single time, you're just gonna be fucking annihilating the boss, man. So yeah. You got your second legendary today, Safuz. Give her till she quivers, but good job. Yeah, so yeah. You're stacking all of this stuff together, so this is really good. Good job. This is a good log. I like it. I like it! Alright. I'll be back in a second, guys. I'm just going to go downstairs and grab a glass of water, and then we will continue. We will continue viewing logs on, mythic bosses. The next person's log is going to be Narloth. I'll be right back. Okay. So, this is the first one we're going to be doing. Alright, Lopes. Draw. Grigo. Alright. Let's take one more for now. The Major. Alright. Perfect. So, we have Chronomatic, Gul'dan, Tichondrius, and Grand Magistrix. Good. Okay. So, we'll start with Chronomatic Anomaly. This is a good boss to discuss. It was a 3-minute kill. So, this was all of Lust, and then you had these big portions of doing DPS. But again, like, do I have this one? I just want to look at something. This is so weird to me. I'm like freaking out right now. Alright, we want to look at Chronomatic Anomaly. What is this? Does it happen at the same time? No, yours happens earlier than mine. What is happening here? Okay. Oh, I know what happened to me here. I'm pretty sure I got the buff. I got the time buff, so I had to move out of the raid. Anyways, I think there's just too many portions of this fight where you're not able to do DPS. Wait, how did you do on this fight? Looks like you did okay. 491,000 DPS. Okay. Buffs. Look at your buffs. So, especially considering the reap-up time you had. Excuse me. You probably should have been able to do more DPS in this boss fight. I think you guys kept the boss still the entire time because you only had one ad. So I'm assuming you guys just like stacked up and killed the boss. It's only a 3-minute kill, which is really quick, right? I think on this fight your drain up time is just too low, man. Wait, I want to compare again. I think it's just drain up time. But I could be wrong. So, Chronomatic Anomaly. Oh, this is Mythic. I want to look at Heroic. I was looking at Mythic. Okay, Heroic. There we go. Oh, fuck. Right? I have 43% drain up time. Again, guys, the drain up time is just too low. And there's like, especially during Heroic, there's like no time on the boss where I'm just like not really doing damage. I'm always just fucking pumping the shit out of this asshole. But yeah, your drain up time is just too low on a boss fight that only took you guys 3 minutes. Like, on a 3-minute fight especially, when you're having, like, very little mechanics happening and very little movement, especially after, like, the phases, you definitely want to be having way more drain up time. Like, I'm not sure what happened to you during the fight, but... Maybe you just got unlucky on this pull and you didn't have a whole lot of generation for the fight. Let's look at your resources. Soul shards. It looks reasonable. But either way, I mean, a lot of this fight you guys are also kind of screwing yourself on this fight because the majority of this fight you guys are in the slow phase, right? You're not actually doing a lot of damage. This is like a weird log, kind of. It's kind of weird, right? Because I think you guys pull the boss and you kill the first ad. Wait, is this the first? This is number 2. This is number 1. Oh, here are your UAs. Did you UA the ad? You drain the ad for a shard. Did you see it? Yeah. Okay, so this is the first ad, and then this is the second ad. So you guys spend the majority of this fight in the slow phase. I think that's just something your guild needs to work on in general. Like just breaking the ad later in the slow phase. because that's leading to a lot of your guild not being able to do a lot of damage, right? Like none of your guild parsed well on this fight, and I think a big part of that is your guys' strategy. Especially on heroic, you're gonna be able to tank a lot of the damage, right? Just make sure that you guys keep the boss like still channeling his power overwhelm. But even then, your drain up time is still just too low. Even with all of that happening, even with all of the mechanics happening and all that good stuff, you really need to make sure that you're maximizing your drain up time on the boss by way of getting more movement, getting more stuff happening. I mean, if you look at your drain soul casts, there's just not nearly enough of them. Like look at you cast 2 UAs here and you don't even drain them. I'm not sure what happened to you on the fight, but yeah, you need to be draining way more often. Also, this gap between your UAs, you really don't want that happening. I'm not sure what you casted in between those UAs. But yeah, I mean, there's like a gap between a bunch of your UA casts here. You don't ever want that happening. You want them to be like really tightly together, like all of these, and then able to drain them. But not only that, you're having the same issue that the other person did, to where you're on a low number of soul shards and you're casting 3 UAs, right? Like, you never want to be in this situation where you're on low shards casting 3 UAs. It's just not efficient. I understand a lot of you guys think that you need to be casting a lot of UAs to be doing a lot of damage, but it's simply not the case when you're a UA Warlock. You can really get away with casting 2 the entire fight and draining them. And actually, it's optimal to cast 2 and drain them. It's better to cast 2 UAs than to cast 3 in terms of efficiency, okay? Now, it's not going to get you the most damage if you have the shards as a resource, but it is more efficient in terms of what you get per UA. If you look at the damage done of each of your UA casts, it's pretty low. Like 1.81 mil is pretty low for an average cast on an Unstable Affliction. You generally want that to be above 2 million, right? Not only that, I think you can also improve... What? How does your average cast of Corruption do 1.03 million? Weird. Anyways, yeah, you definitely need to be looking at improving on this quite a bit. Yeah, increasing your UA damage, and if you're on low shards and you just kind of feel like you're getting screwed, because even for here you weren't casting for a long time, you need to make sure that you're casting them, in like a good spacing and also not casting so many. And make sure you drain every single UA no matter what, right? There's situations here where it just doesn't happen. And I mean, even here, right, you don't cast UA for an extremely long time, and here, right? There's just too much spacing. Guild's Fault, slow phase? True. Alright. Golden Heroic from Soul Twist? I assume? Okay. So, Soul Twist, you parsed reasonably well. I would say you did reasonably well in this fight for your item level. We'll take a better look, though. So, you have 39 traits. You're running Writhe and Agony, Absolute Corruption, Soul Harvest, Soul Effigy. I think one thing that you can improve on right away is your spec. I think Soul Harvest is a great talent choice, and there's going to be a lot for me to talk about during this log because of your talent choice of Soul Harvest. But I think your talent choice would you be better suited running Contagion. And if you aren't comfortable running Contagion with Soul Effigy, to be honest, it's like basically the same amount of globals. You're just using Corruption on the boss instead, right? You would only ever Agony your Soul Effigy anyways. I think that running Contagion is better in this scenario. And if you aren't comfortable running Contagion, just change Soul Effigy to Soul Conduit and you'll probably do better. But your legendaries are great. Your gear is definitely good enough to where you can be doing more damage than this. So I would change Absolute Corruption to Contagion. And if you're not comfortable running Soul Effigy with Contagion, I would change Soul Effigy to Soul Conduit. So that is one tip I can give you. And actually just a general tip to every single Warlock on Gul'dan. Use the Infernal in Phase 1. Use Infernal in Phase 1, and while he's channeling his cast and transitioning into Phase 2, just summon your Doomguard, because the Infernal does a crap load of damage in Phase 1. Either way, let's look at your buff up time, because this is going to be the most telltale of how you're doing on the fight. Let's just add everything that's important. So we're going to add, I'm not going to look at that, we're going to add Soul Harvest. We're going to add Deadwind Harvester. We're going to add, what else we're going to add? Wrath of Consumption. We're going to... That's enough. Okay, so the first one is your Soul Harvest. The second one is your Deadwind Harvester. And the third one is your Wrath of Consumption, okay? So to me, it looks like you're aligning your Wrath of Consumption pretty good with your Soul Harvest, which is nice. The only issue that I have is you're not saving Reap for your Soul Harvest. Like, look at this. You cast all of this Reap chunk before you cast Soul Harvest. And even here, you cast this Reap chunk before you cast your Soul Harvest. You want to be making sure that like 30 seconds to 45 seconds before your Soul Harvest comes off cooldown, you are no longer using Reap and you're banking Soul Shards, okay? The reason being is you want to be able to align all of those cooldowns together in order to be able to mash out a bunch more damage when that thing happens. It also allows you to do more damage during your Wrath of Consumption. So just by looking here, one, your Soul Harvests aren't big enough, like they don't last long enough, and two, make sure that you're aligning your Soul Harvest with every single time with Reap, okay? Every time. There should never be a time with Soul Harvest where you don't have at least 10 seconds of Reap. At least, right? But yeah. Anyways, look at your casts. And we'll exit out of these. So in terms of Unstable Affliction, I need to like zoom in to get a better idea. Your UA usage is like super sporadic, and this is causing you to get extremely low drain soul uptime. So your UA usage is seriously like all over the place. It's like wild. You need to be more controlled about your UA casts, okay? You really need to be more controlled, and by more, let's see if is there like a good log here. Let's just look at this, okay? Your UA casts need to be more controlled, like this. They need to be evenly spaced. You need to be able to like definitely make a recognizable, like, you need to be able to discern it, right? Like here, like look at this. Like when I zoom in on this, it's just like a mess. Oh, this isn't too bad, but like here, sorry, like here, it's pretty messy, right? Like this looks kind of messy. It's like 2 and then something, and then you need to make sure that they're really clumped tightly together, and not only that, that you're only using 2 to 3, because your drain up time is just so low, man. Like 24% drain up time when you're not even running Soul Effigy is just extremely low, okay? You definitely need to make sure you're improving on that. And it's definitely possible with your spec that you're running. The way that I would recommend you improve on your drain up time is make sure that you're constantly doing the cycle, right? You know, dot the boss, dot your effigy, and then drain twice, and then, or sorry, UA twice, and then drain, okay? And then keep draining, refresh your agony, UA twice, drain. Yeah. Soul Harvest lines up. Let me just remove this real quick. Soul Harvest and Time Dilation. So you want to be using your Soul Harvest with your Time Dilation as well if you can manage that. Sometimes it's hard to line up, but you should be able to do it. You should be able to align Soul Harvest with your Time Dilation. But, I mean, in general, right, you need to be improving on your Drain Soul Uptime. It's not enough. 24% is not enough. You really need to make it bigger, especially when you're not running something like Soul Siphon Life, right, where that costs you an extra global cooldown. So not only that, you also can make sure that you're casting Seed of Corruption on Gul'dan when the ads are first spawning, and the Empowered Eyes, right? So on Gul'dan, he casts the Empowered Eyes. You're not casting Seed of Corruption on the Empowered Eyes, and that is really going to also help your DPS. And then when those eye comes out, make sure you're agony all of them. I think that you are, yeah, you're agonying them, which is good. But you can also cast that Seed of Corruption on Hand of Gul'dan preemptively to also get corruption on all of the eyes and have that additional DPS, as well as agonying them and then popping your Soul Harvest. So all in all, what I would recommend you do is 1, make sure you save Reap for your Soul Harvest. 2, make sure your UAs look a little bit cleaner. That also allows you to get higher drain up time. And 3, change your spec. Definitely be running Contagion with Soul Harvest. You really want those modifiers to align together. So that's what I'd recommend. It's Writhe and Agony? Wait, this is Writhe and Agony? No, this is Malefic Grasp. There's no way this is Writhe and Agony. It's Writhe and Agony? Oh my god, it's Writhe and Agony. What the fuck? Oh my god. What? So don't run Ride the Agony and Absolute Corruption on Gul'dan. This is a really weird spec. Your drain up time is still low, even though you are running Ride the Agony, because of the amount of globals you're using. So that still stands. Your UA usage makes a little bit more sense now because you are running Ride the Agony. Oops, my phone. Your UA usage does make a little bit more sense since you are running Ride the Agony, but at the same time, like, for the same token, don't run this spec on Gul'dan. If you're gonna run this particular spec on Gul'dan, run Contagion. You're hurting yourself so much by running Absolute Corruption, you don't even know. Make sure you're running Contagion. Especially with Ride the Agony. You would never run Absolute Corruption on this boss with Ride the Agony, especially with Soul Harvest. Never, ever. I can't believe it. Yeah, don't run this spec. The spec is what's hurting you more than anything, man. Change to Contagion, and I guarantee you'll see a huge DPS increase. But not only that, make sure you're aligning stuff with Soul Harvest. That still stands. And also, make sure you're using the Seed of Corruptions on the boss when he's casting the eyes. Yeah. I mean, Ride the Agony is fine on this boss, and so is Soul Harvest. But 1, I wouldn't recommend using Soul Harvest with Ride the Agony. And 2, I wouldn't recommend using Absolute Corruption with Ride the Agony on this boss either. So those are a couple things that I recommend you to improve on. Yeah, play a different spec. I don't think this is a good spec for Gul'dan. Or talent choice. Why would you never run that spec? Alright, so he's running Soul Harvest, right? And since you're running Soul Harvest, that means you want to be able to align a bunch of damage modifiers together in order to get these big windows where you're just bursting the boss for like 2 million, right? When you're running a spec like Soul Harvest, you want to be running as many damage modifiers as you can. So damage modifiers being Contagion, Malefic Grasp. Not necessarily Malefic Grasp, but Malefic Grasp, 70% more damage while you're doing 20% more damage is huge. You want to be running these damage modifiers so you're able to multiply them together to do even more during those burst windows, because to be honest, outside of those burst windows, you're not really doing that much damage. So it's just super important that you really make sure you're optimizing around those burst windows. Yeah. So that's what I would really recommend you work on, man. Really try to work on that. Work on those burst windows. And not only that, Contagion will do you worlds of wonder when running that spec. But if you do want to run Ride the Agony, run Ride the Agony, Contagion, Siphon Life on that boss. Do not run Absolute Corruption, Soul Harvest. Not a good talent to run. Alright, the next boss is Tichondrius Heroic. Very interesting. Tichondrius Heroic from No Secrets. Okay, so if we look at his summary, he's playing the Seed of Corruption spec. His mastery stats are decent. He's got some nice gear. Alright, good enough. So, you guys only get 1 bat phase. So your fight is relatively short. So you should be able to do a lot of damage. Okay. One thing that I can definitely recommend a lot of you Warlocks to do, and a lot of things that you Warlocks can work on Tichondrius, is work on your single target. I see so many Warlocks running talents that cause you to want to AoE, whether it be with Seed of Corruption. But look at player damage to boss on Warcraft logs. Look at Warlocks, dude. We're able to do 900k single target DPS to Tichondrius. That's fucking insane, okay? Even on Heroic, right? Heroic, it's going to be even more. So 962,000 DPS to Tichondrius. Even me, right? I was able to do 946,000 single target. I really recommend a lot of you Warlocks, especially on Heroic, to run a single target build. run a single target spec on Tichondrius, and you're going to find yourself doing a lot more damage than normal, right? Here, like a lot of you guys are really struggling because you're casting Seed of Corruption so much. The only time I will recommend you guys actually use Seed of Corruption on Tichondrius is on a strategy where you're keeping the ads close to the boss. So if you guys stack the bloods on the boss, if you're stacking all of the ads on Tichondrius, it's definitely worth it for you to run Seed of Corruption. But on a fight where you guys are taking the ads out and killing them in the back, it's really, really, really not efficient for you guys to be doing this. It's way, way, way better for you guys to just run a single target build on Tichondrius. Either way, we'll still look at the log and see how you did. Your drain up time was super low. Let's see how mine is. I mean, I know you're casting Seed of Corruption a lot. I mean, even mine was like, I had 50% drain up time, but on the same token, with 50% drain up time, obviously I was running a single target spec, you were not. But if we look at your casts, you are draining your UAs, but even here, right, you're only draining your UAs one time. You really need to make sure you're draining your UAs 2 times. Otherwise, you're not covering all of your unstable afflictions. So even when you are casting your unstable afflictions, you're not even covering them all with Drained Soul, which really isn't good. And your UA casts in this fight really don't make any sense. I mean, see here, right? You cast 4 UAs and you only drain once. That's not going to cover all of your UAs, right? It's just not going to cover them all. So what I can recommend for you to work on, no secrets, on this fight. I mean, I know a lot of the time you're casting your Seed of Corruptions for when the ads spawn. But, I mean, basically the idea of Seed of Corruption is you cast your Seed of Corruption, you get your damage out on all the ads, and then you use the Wrath of Consumption stacks to pump back into the boss on single target, right? So you Seed of Corruption, Agony all of the Bloods, you get your Sow the Seeds burst off, right? And then what you can do is you can take that Wrath of Consumption, you can, dot the boss 2 times, UA him 3 times, drain twice, and just repeat that cycle, and make sure you're getting higher drain up time, because having 12% drain up time on an entire fight is just not enough, for 1. And 2, I would really recommend you just to run pure single target and really, really work on it, because to me, this fight just looks like a mess for you, and you're having a hard time distinguishing when you should be AoEing and when you should be single targeting. So what I would recommend is that you just focus on the single target build, just dot the ads in order to get Wrath of Consumption, don't focus them, and just focus on killing Tichondrius with a bunch of UAs. You felt like your guild needed help with the ads? Okay, so if the guild needs help with your ads, you're still, okay, so like imagine a situation like this, right? Okay, so you do the pull of the boss, right? You Agony him, you Corruption him, you UA twice, and then you drain 2 times, right? You refresh your Agony, you refresh your Corruption, you UA twice, and then you drain 2 times, okay? You know the Bloods are spawning soon, so what you can do is you precast a Seed of Corruption on Tichondrius. Those go out on all the ads, they explode, you Agony each of the Bloods are brought out, you Seed of Corruption them until they're dead, and then once they start getting low, you'll cast Drain Soul in order to refund your Soul Shards, and then what you do is you take those Soul Shards that you refunded from the ads, and then you look back at the boss, you UA twice, and then you drain, you UA twice, and then you drain. Next blood cycle, you precast Seed of Corruption, you Agony them, they're brought out, you kill them, you drain them when they're low, and then you go back to the boss, you refresh your dots, you UA twice, you drain, you UA twice, you drain, and you maintain this cycle of doing AoE damage, and then single target, and then AoE, and then single target. You don't mix them together. You don't try to UA the boss while you're Seed of Corruptioning and killing the Bloods, right? And also, when you are UAing, it's really not worth it for you to be casting it if you're not getting the full Drain Soul benefit. So that is what I recommend. Hello, how is everyone today? Alright, so that's what I would recommend on Tichondrius for you to work on. If you want to focus more on ads, that's fine. Run Seed of Corruption, but I do recommend that you work on that for the boss either way. Okay. Another way to deal with bats too is when a bat first spawns and it's 100% life, you can actually cast a Seed of Corruption on it. And when you cast Seed of Corruption on the 100% health bat, you're guaranteed to get that damage off because it'll die later, right? Alright, we're looking at the Major's log. He parsed 100% for his item level, so he's item level 881 on Grand Magistrix normal. So if we would look at his gear, he has Pride As and Pillars of the Dark Portal. He has 38 traits, which is really high for his item level. He does not have 4-piece. He's running Malefic Grasp regular spec. So, by looking at his damage done, his drain up time was decent on this boss. 33% is pretty decent for Grand Magistrix, especially because of the way that she works on this fight. But we're going to look at his cast and see how he does. So, oh shit, okay. So overall, it doesn't look too bad. You're going a little bit off with Bloodlust, which is fine if you get the RNG to do so. But overall, it looks pretty good. Like, you have pretty consistent stacking for the most part. Casting like 4 UAs at once is kind of bad, but at the same time on Elasan, it's not the biggest deal because you don't really have a lot of time to get your UAs in, and since you don't really have a lot of time to get your UAs in, generally speaking, it's not the worst thing in the world to do. But like situations like this, right? I just feel like you're not going to get enough drain time. What's your resources looking for shards? Because, yeah, you're like struggling on shard gen, which, I mean, is whatever. I mean, you did well on this boss. This is a pretty decent, like, UA spacing, right? Like, the spacing looks very clean. So that means you're getting your cycles off when you should be getting them off. So your spacing looks good. Your damage looks good. But what I would recommend you do is, like, try to avoid this, like, 5 stacking and stuff. It's, like, a little bit too much. Especially when you don't have any reap, right? Like, you casted 5 UAs, or 4 UAs here, you didn't even have any reap, right? You only really want to be doing that if like, the only reason you can ever justify casting, like, 5 UAs is because you had, like, Whispers, Reap, and Wrath of Consumption. Here, you had none of it. So, I would really recommend that you work on, like, if you are going to want to dump a bunch of UAs, make sure you have Reap. And even then, try to be consistent with the 3 UA cycle. If you don't really know what you're doing, you're going to end up hurting yourself in the long run. But yeah, your buff up time was good. You were getting your Wrath of Consumption stacks, which is fine. But what I would recommend that you work on in particular on this boss fight is your UA casts are just like too much. Like, limit your UA casts, get more drain up time. If you want to dump a bunch of UAs, make sure you at least have Reap for it. Like, at the very least, make sure you have Reap. Especially because when you have that 30% speed, your UAs are going to be falling off relatively quickly, and they're going to be casting a lot faster too. So, just be careful with regards to that as well. You spam Drain Life? Yeah, you do. You spam it very much. My guildie told me some locks are swapping from ELT to Contagion before pulls, so they start with ELT of the first 20 seconds of a boss fight. Thoughts on this? I do that on a Mythic Crosis. I do that on single target pulls, but I don't do it on every boss. So yeah, this is my log. We're not going to look at my log. Alright, let's take some more. It is currently 1:12 p.m., so we'll draw a few more logs here. Vu Snake. Barely a Dequate Gonzo. I don't even know, but you have a sloth picture and it's kind of cute. I'm digging it. Alright. Draw. Vidum. Alright, we're going here. And Fake Brutus. Alright. Gul'dan, Spellblade, Gul'dan. Okay, so we have 2 Gul'dans and 2 Spellblades. Good. So, one guy is running AoE on Spellblade, and one guy is running single target. Spellblade is definitely another boss which you can run single target on. Again, I'm going to look at my own logs and show you guys. On Illidan, on Spellblade, Heroic, damage to bosses, Heroic, Spellblade, Oriole. So here. Look at this, right? I was able to do to the boss, right? To the boss, I was able to do 976,000 DPS running a single target spec, right? I ran single target. My overall was 1 million, but I ran a completely single target build. If we look at my cast, right? Look at my UAs. They look very clean, very nice. Either way, right? Look at the peaks. Beautiful. Either way, on Spellblade, it's definitely viable to be running a spec like this that's pure single target. Very, very good. I like it. I like it a lot. I like the idea. So you were able to do 620k DPS, so probably could have done a little bit better. Your gear is decent. Probably could use some more crit though. Your crit is fairly low. Either way, let's look at your casts and things like that. Your drain soul uptime is actually fairly low. I'm not sure if you're corrupting your effigy or not. I wouldn't recommend it. Let's see if you are. So you are corrupting your effigy. I wouldn't corruption your effigy. I don't think it's worth it. Maybe like outside of your UAs and stuff, it's fine. But for the most part, I think it's better just to agony it. You gain such little damage by corruptioning your effigy. I think it's just better to get higher drain uptime. I mean, here you're only corruptioning Spellblade, but yeah. Let's see your agony. Okay, so here's a big problem. So you cast like Seed like 3 times. Okay. So Gonzo, what I can instantly recommend you do on this boss is I don't think you're using your cooldowns, and I don't think you're using things optimally here. Based off your casts alone, this is agony casts, okay? You're not agonying the icy enchantments when they come out, and not only are you not agonying the icy enchantments when they come out, you're also not popping your soul harvest with a bigger duration because of that, okay? So basically what I can say and what I can recommend you to do better on this fight is only cast 1 Seed of Corruption when the icy ads are out. Other than that, I would just recommend continuing to single target. That's just to keep your corruption on all of the ads, because that is a large portion of DPS that you can gain. But also make sure you're agonying the icy enchantments when they come out. Make sure that you're doing that, because it's not only additional shard gen, it's also a lot of additional free DPS that you gain. And not only that, it allows you to get a bigger soul harvest off, right? Because if you're using soul harvest on the icy enchantments, that's an additional 20% damage on all of those corruptions. And not only that, you're also going to get a much longer duration, because there's 4 of those ads, plus the boss, plus your effigy. So that's an additional 10 seconds of the soul harvest that you generate via the agonies, right? Not only that, you also want to wait till the end of that phase to pop your soul harvest. So basically, once all of the icy enchantments start to get around 10%, that's when you want to press your soul harvest, because you use it like here, which is kind of weird, right? I'd recommend using it like here, because you're only going to get like, how many uses could you get on this fight? You could use 1, and then 2, and then 3. I would honestly just recommend saving your soul harvest for the icy enchantments, but on this boss, I really wouldn't even recommend using soul harvest. I'd probably use Siphon Life, just because it doesn't really align well with the ad spawning. But either way, I would save my soul harvest for here and here on the boss, so I'd only get 2 uses, but I use it for the icy enchantments, so I could stack it with Wrath of Consumption, Reap, and the ads. And then I would also use it at the very end of the boss, just because it comes off cooldown, right? But you need to make sure that you're increasing the duration of your soul harvest just here via agonying the ads. And not only that, you also want to make sure you're not casting Seed of Corruption as much as you are. Just make sure you're maintaining your dots on the Spellblade, and just keep going about your single target rotation. If we look at your UA casts... Oh fuck, what is this? This is agony. If we look at your UA cast, you casted like 5 UAs and then press Soul Harvest. I wouldn't really recommend doing that. I mean, it's not the worst idea ever, but at the same time, probably just like do 3 and then 3. Like, it's better to like space them out and do like 2 stacks of UAs rather than like a big stack of 5 and then just pray to God you're gonna get the most crazy RNG ever with your Soul Harvest. So yeah, that's what I would recommend you improve on this fight. Aside from that, it looks like you were aligning your Harvester with your Soul Harvest, which is good. That's very good. You also had some Wrath of Consumption here with it, which is also very nice, but you want to be looking for like Wrath of Consumption here, Soul Harvest, Reap, and all that good stuff going on, because it seems like you're trying to AoE when the ads are spawning, which isn't really that good, the icy enchantments, but you really should just be dotting them and just going back to doing your single target damage rotation on the boss. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend you work on for this boss. Also, I would just change Soul Harvest for a different talent. I don't think it's good. I don't think Soul Harvest is really that good on this fight. So gonzo. Only 1 pot to fuck? Oh, it's only going to say you use 1 pot. If you pre-pot, it only says 1 pot use. Maybe there was only 1 pot use, but if you look at pre-pot, it would only show once. Either way, this is Snoof on Spellblade Oriole. He's running the AoE talents. He managed to do 556,000 DPS with the AoE talents. His Seed of Corruption damage is very low. His Killjaden's Burning Wish damage is very good. But there are some comments that we're going to have to make on this, okay? So if we look at your casts, or okay, let's just look at your Killjaden's Burning Wish for one, okay? You use it here, here, and then here, which is good. But one thing that I can recommend you do, man, is use Killjaden's Burning Wish on pull. This is a minute and 30 seconds into the fight where you use it again. You can get an additional use of your trinket at the very beginning. You don't have to save it, right? The ads spawn a minute and 15 in. That is perfect timing for you to use your Killjaden's Burning Wish on pull, okay? So, not only that, Kindle's Corn, very good, very good. Immolation, very good to run the Infernal on this boss. Your Drain Soul uptime is decent for your spec that you're running. Your UA damage is very good. The only issue I have here is your Seed to Corruption damage is extremely low. We really should be seeing these peaks be a lot more like this every single time. So let's take a look at why that happened, okay? So if we look at your casts, okay, of Seed of Corruption, you only casted 3 Seed of Corruptions when each of the icy enchantments are out. You really should be getting way, way, way more Seed of Corruption casts when the ads are out, and I think it's because you're low on shards. Oh no, you're high on shards. You're probably just not casting Seed of Corruption enough in this phase, man. Like, you're casting your UAs, like here, like, don't do that. Like, just spam cast Seed. Like, as soon as, basically, this is how you want to do it, okay? If you're running the AoE talents on Spellblade, this is how you want to do it. The boss is there. She does detonation, right? And then the icy enchantments detonate. They spawn. Agonying them as they run towards the boss. So they spawn out of the ground. The tank's getting aggro. Agony a couple of them. Refresh agony on the boss. And then just literally sit there and just be like, Seed of Corruption, 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 until they die. You want to be casting like 5 to 6 to 7 Seed of Corruptions in a row on the boss, right? Like here, they're so spaced out. Like you cast one like 10 seconds later on the boss. Just literally sit there and just plant your dick down and just spam the fuck out of Seed of Corruption. You're going to be doing a lot more damage. If we look at your buffs, you do not really align your Deadwind Harvester for these portions. So make sure you do have harvest stacks every single time the ads spawn. Super, super important. It's probably the most important thing on Spellblade. But not only that, make sure that your Seed of Corruption cast, you just get a lot more of them in, right? It should look like a fucking happy face of Seed of Corruptions. Like, let me show you. I should just keep myself open for a resource. Spellblade. Look at this, okay? Look at this. This is my icy enchantments, okay? Let's compare. This is my icy enchantments. This is your icy enchantments. Big dick, like fucking fat ass like chode dick. Little dick. Big dick. Little dick. You want to make your dick big like this, okay? And you totally can do it. So make sure you're just casting a lot more Seed of Corruptions during the icy phase. Like, look at this, dude. I cast like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I cast 9 here and I cast like 7 here, okay? You gotta make sure you get big dick. Like, you don't want to, like, just look. Like, it just looks sad when I know that that's kind of probably making you feel bad right now. But, seriously, like, just look at the difference, right? It's very, very apparent. So, yeah. Make sure you work on that. Alright. Wait, did I just look at this log? No, this is Gul'dan. So, yeah. Big dick TPS. So, yeah. I love Big Dick's Kappa Pride. Yeah, so yeah. I mean, you can just tell, right? It's just nice and thick. You want to have a nice, thick coagulation of those. Who doesn't sad that my guild is private logging? Oh, yeah, that's too bad, not me. Too bad. Alright, this is Gul'dan Heroic from Shub. He parsed 78% on this boss fight. So pretty decent. You probably could be doing more damage for your item level. Your legendaries are great. So, Shub, one thing I definitely recommend that you can improve on this boss fight is your phase 1 DPS. Your phase 1 DPS, you're only doing like 500k. You want to try to get that upwards of like 650 in phase 1, but we'll talk about that later and how you can improve on that. Your phase 2 looks good. It looks a lot better, and your phase 3 looks good too. This doesn't look like a bad log. Your The only thing I have issue here is your drain uptime is 20.36%. It's so bad. But yeah, we have to look at your phase 1 DPS for sure, okay? So in phase 1 on Gul'dan, make sure everyone here is using Infernal. Use Infernal in phase 1. It's better than Doomguard. Once this little dip happens here, once he starts like casting his explosion, summon a Doomguard. But either way, in the first phase, I already talked about this, but make sure you're using, cast like one, you should only ever be using one Seed of Corruption in the first phase just to get Corruption on all of them. Only maintain Agonies and Corruption. Do not Siphon Life in phase 1 until there's only one ad left. And make sure you're popping off with UAs, okay? I'm probably actually just gonna make a video on YouTube about how to deal with phase 1 more effectively as an Affliction Warlock, just because people are not doing it very well. But either way, try to improve on your phase 1 DPS. By way of just basically, once you have your Agonies out and once you cast that Seed of Corruption, pick the highest health mob, UA it twice, UA it 3 times, drain, UA it 3 times, drain, and just go about that cycle of maintaining your Agonies, picking the high health ad, and just cycling it down, okay? But either way, let's look at your casts, because this is going to be a telltale of the story. So a lot of the times you're like casting like 1 UA throughout the fight. It kind of looks messy. It doesn't look too bad though, honestly. Like this UA usage doesn't look too bad. If we were to like zoom in, right, to here, like this is pretty good, right? It's only like once we start getting like situations like this that it starts to look a little bit like hairy. But I mean, overall, it's not too bad. Not too bad. Bullying the viewers. Not bullying the viewers. So yeah, I mean, your UA usage isn't awful. The only issue I have here is, like, you're not draining enough on your UAs. Like, see here? There's times in this fight where you're casting your UA and you're not even draining them. Make sure that never happens. You know when the powered bonds are going to come out. You know when mechanics are going to happen. And since you know when mechanics are going to happen, you know when you can get a cycle in and when you can't get a cycle in. So make sure that you're using your, yeah, make sure you're using your drain souls a little bit better on this fight. Very, very important to get at least 30 to 35% uptime on this fight. 20% is way too low. So find some time to just plant your feet and cast. Because even here, like, you cast 1 UA and there's no draining around it. You cast 3 UAs, you only drain once. You have to drain twice on UAs. You will not cover the full duration of 3 UAs with 1 drain. It just doesn't happen. You need to cast at least 2. Unless your haste is like 50%, which is not. But, yeah. That's one thing I can recommend you improve on. Improve on your Drain Soul uptime. Improve on your UA casts a little bit. Like, make them more efficient on the boss in terms of when ads spawn. If we're also to look at your Seed of Corruption. So you cast it twice in the opener. That's not a bad thing to do. You're just refreshing your Corruption. That's fine. You're casting it here for the eyes. That's good. Yeah. So aside from that, it honestly wasn't too bad. Your Deadwind Harvester is aligning a little bit with Wrath of Consumption, which is good. Your pack procs are fine. I mean, this could have been you could have done a lot better on this boss had you just had, like, an additional 15% drain up time, and not only had that additional drain up time, but just made sure that you're draining all of your UAs. Because just look at this, right? 2 UAs you drain once, 3 UAs you don't drain at all, 1 UA you drain once, 2 UAs you drain once. Draining here, 3 UAs you drain once, 2 UAs you drain once, 2 times. That's good. Most of the times on your UAs, you're only draining 1 time. You need to drain twice. You need to get 100% of your UAs under drain. Look at your average cast of Unstable Affliction, 1.61 mil. Let's just compare, okay? So this guy had a much better parse on Gul'dan. He did 728k DPS, and each of his UAs was doing 2.2 million DPS or damage per cast, right? And he had 37% drain up time, right? And it looks a lot better overall, right? He's just really getting that UA damage in via the Drain Soul. Just make sure that you're draining all of your UAs, and you'll see this damage go up a lot, okay? And that'll be really good for you in the long run. What is this? What is this Nighthold Heroic Kappa Pride shit? I need to watch this. What is this? Oh my god, you clipped me dancing to Barbie Girl? I'm AFK. Anyways, yeah. Yeah, that needs to be improved. Anyways, this guy did amazing on this boss. He did 728,000 DPS at 909 item level. It's very, very good damage. He's running Hood of Eternal Disdain, Safu's Secret, so he could be using a better legendary, but not a big deal. Wait, when was this log taken? Okay. Anywho, his stats are good, so all that stuff's fine. You probably use some more haste for this build. Well, you are running Metronome, so your haste is fine. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. He's like using time dilation here to cast all of these UAs before the boss phases. It's not a big deal. So what can you improve on this fight? Again, on this fight, I never see anyone having the Infernal Pet for phase 1. So summon your Infernal Pet for phase 1. You can change it out to Doomguard in phase 2 if you want to. You can also keep it all the way to phase 3. In phase 3, you should be using Doomguard, but all the way up until, Infernal. So up to phase 3, you should use Infernal. In phase 3, you should be using Doomguard. Either way, your damage was very, very good on this boss fight. Your drain uptime was reasonable. Probably could be a little bit higher if you're really trying to parse. 37% is not like if you want to parse like amazingly well on this boss, you need like 45% drain soul uptime. But either way, you're casting a lot of UAs, but you're also just kind of being greedy with it, right? Because you're trying to, I'm assuming you're trying to parse, but you're using it with your time dilation, right? Like when you're using time dilation, you're casting like 5 UAs. The thing about time dilation is though, I mean, I kind of do the same thing. Is it with Wrath of Consumption? It has to be, right? So your Wrath, let me just add this to the chart. So if you guys don't know what he's doing, I do this on the boss too. He basically, after he Seeds of Corruptions all of the eyes, this happens every time. So after he seeds or dots all of the eyes, he has Wrath of Consumption, okay? And what he's doing is, after all of the eyes are dead, he has that 20% buff, and he casts Reap Souls, and he time dilates, and then he casts like 5 UAs, okay? This is a good thing to do, because not only are you buffing all those UAs by a shit ton of damage, you're also draining a lot quicker. So you're doing just a fuckload of damage during these parts, right? If we look at damage done, you can really tell that this is the first time that it happened, and this is the second time where it happened, where he's bursting all the way up to, you know, a whole lot. I think the biggest mistake that you made on this boss was right here. You casted too many UAs. Like, you're banking too much on this. You're banking way too much on these 5 UAs just carrying you throughout the boss fight, okay? I wouldn't recommend going this ham, because I think you fuck yourself on shards. Yeah, like, you're going down to, like, 1 soul shard, which isn't really that good. Maybe just use, like, 3 or 4, but you never want to just dump down to 0 shards and just not have anything for a while, because this sort of shit can happen, right? And on a fight where you're getting this kind of a big dip for, like, a whole minute, because this is, what, at 4 minutes, and this is at 5 minutes and 18 seconds, there's a whole minute here where you're just going without doing a single cycle, right? If you can imagine that this dip and these peaks instead looked like this, think about how much more damage you would do on the boss if this section looked exactly the same as this section, where this was big hump and then like a little hump here and then another big hump, right? And then obviously here is when the boss goes down or whatever, not a big deal. But you can definitely be working on doing more damage in this phase. I mean, I understand the boss is also phasing in this thing and you can't hit him, but it's a whole minute, right? It's like a whole minute. It's a long time where you go without casting a single UA. And the boss doesn't phase for a minute. You just kind of screwed yourself on shards, right? You never want to go a whole minute without doing a cast. So that was probably one of the mistakes you made on this boss, is right here. There should be like a little bit of damage. It shouldn't be a dip for this long. It should look more like this. Dips like this can happen if you get Flames of Sargeras. This is probably not Flames of Sargeras, though. This is probably where you were running away from the explosion cast. But yeah, I mean, I understand your reasoning for going ham during your Wrath of Consumption here and here, but honestly, it's not worth casting 5 UAs if you're fucking yourself like this. Just cast like 3 or 4. You only will do like, you know, like maybe like 100k DPS less, but this portion here will look a lot better, and you'll be doing like 200k more during this phase, okay? So So that's what I can really recommend you work on. So just like recap, like Infernal Pet in phase 1, maybe even in phase 2. Cast like maybe just a little bit less UAs when you're doing your time dilation burst. And yeah, you'll probably do a little bit better on this boss fight. Your kill time was very, very quick. Very, very quick. But yeah, not bad, not bad. Good job, dude. This is a good parse. This was a good parse. This is Gul'dan. So, as sad as it is, guys, as sad as it is, this is gonna be the last set of logs that I look at for today. Dan's game, Bible Thump. Alright. The last set of logs that I look at today. Feels bad, man. But we'll do another one. We'll do another one sometime. Hey, it's Scientist again. I think I reviewed your log last time. Hey, it's Giraffe Boy! I reviewed your log last time too. We'll take a decent amount though. We'll take like quite a few. Dan's game? Exactly, dude. Dan's game feels bad, man. What face? Alright, well, we're gonna take a bunch though, so... Oh, shit. Ah! No! I didn't get your log, did I? Is it the same? It is. Fuck, dude. Draw. Sorry, whoever's log I missed. I feel bad. I do apologize. Alright, this is all I can do, guys. This is the last set of logs. We'll do one more person. Who's it gonna be? Alright, that's it. No more. This is it. This is it. Where is this sub button? Stop being lazy and message Twitch. You already kind of answered the questions on my log if you want to answer another. I don't remember which one yours is, dude. I'm not gonna lie. Is yours this one? Locked Eye? Either way. I know I can't get to all of them, but you can still learn from other people's. I'm not sure which log you guys want me to go over here. I'll pick your Chronomatic Anomalies. And I'll pick your Trillax. Is this Mythic? Mythic. These are the first Mythic logs of the day, I think. This is Spellblade. Quip. This is... Hibotanist. Okay. Okay, this is a lot of logs, dude. This is a lot of logs. Oh, Zentier. Alright, I'll do your log, dude. Here you go. Boom. Undead Force. Is this you? Are you Undead Force or are you Shrill? I don't even know. Alright, this is going to take me a while to get through. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, guys, the raffle is now over. No more raffles. I'm done. Been following logs since $100. We were almost guildies. You're a god, no doubt. Oh, thanks, dude. Alright, we're done with the raffle, guys. No more raffle. It's all over. No more exclamation point in chat, okay? No more exclamation point in chat. We're done. Alright. Kappa Pride. Okay, so we're going to start... Okay, well, let's just organize this a little bit better so we have all the bosses that are the same together. This is Chronomatic Anomaly. Spellblade, Botanist. Chronomatic Anomaly can go here. Spellblade, this can go here. Gul'dan, Crosis, Trillax. Boom, boom, Spellblade. Chronomatic Anomaly. Wait, where's the other Chronomatic? Okay, here's the other one. Okay. Alright, very good. Okay. This looks like a good log. This looks like a good log. Whose is this? This guy's. This looks like a good log. I'm not sure what this is. This looks decent, I think. This is this man's. Okay. Okay. And this is Undead Force. Interesting. Okay. Let's start with the beginning. Let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. At least end on my rank 1 healing parse. If you guys don't know, Hakunu is actually a warlock that heals instead of does damage. He's some sort of weirdo like that for some reason. I don't even know. So, this is Hibotanist. He's running Wrath and Agony, Absolute Corruption, and Siphon Life. He was able to perform a total DPS count of 918,000 DPS. The gear he was using is a high mastery build with power cord and pillars of the dark portal. So you did pretty good damage this pull for your gear, honestly. It wasn't that bad. You probably could do over 1 million. Let's see your buffs. Especially with the reap up time that you had, you probably could have done over 1 million. Not a big deal though. Let's see what we can improve on here. In terms of your damage, your agony uptime and your agony DPS was pretty good. Your drain soul uptime, I mean, it's like whatever, right? You're running rather than agony. Who gives a fuck? You had a lot of corruption casts, I guess, for the ads, right? So let's look at your buffs. So in terms of Wrath of Consumption, there's times in the fight where you're like letting it fall for a split second, right? If you're able to chain this Wrath of Consumption with this one, now I'm not sure if you had ads to dot in this portion or this portion, right? I don't know if there was stuff that was able to be dead. But if you're able to chain these Wrath of Consumptions together, you would have done so much more damage. It would have been unreal, okay? So that's one thing to look on, is on Heroic, if you're actually able to chain these Wrath of Consumptions together, you're going to be doing a lot more damage. I mean, obviously there's some times where you can't chain them together. It just doesn't happen. There's no ads for you to dot. Either way, you kind of got unlucky with your Nefarious Pract. You only had 1 proc for the fight, so that kind of sucks. But anyways, look at your cast. This is going to look totally AIDS, but either way. One thing I can definitely recommend you work on, man, is you're casting your UAs on one target, okay? You have the power cord. You should be, to the best of your ability, be casting your UAs. You should cast it on the Solarist, and then one on the Arcanist, and then one on the Naturalist, and just keep going through a rotation of casting UA on each one of them separately in order to try to bait out procs of your belt, right? Because we look at your resources and we look at your soul shards, you only had 2 shards refunded to you via your power cord, right? Over the course of a 3-minute fight. You should have way more than that, right? So definitely, especially even in phase 2, if you can, make sure that you're trying to switch up the target that you're casting your UA on, okay? It doesn't matter who you target with your UA, it's gonna do the same damage. You're not running a build that buffs your UA damage for any particular reason, right? Okay, so that's one thing that I could recommend you improve on, is changing your UA targeting. It's good that you're stacking them like this. It's good that you're stacking your UAs like this. But if we look at your resources, you're like capped on shards. Oh, whoops. No, you're not. But there's like this portion of the fight here where like you're capped on shards for a reasonable amount of time. Just like cast the UAs, man. Like you don't have to stack them all at once. Like 3 to 4 stacking is fine. You're going for the 5 stacks with the Reap, right? Which is good to do. But there's still times in the fight where you should just be tossing out UAs when you have the global too. But I mean, overall, you did a really good job, man. This is not an easy boss as an Affliction Warlock whatsoever. And you did good. But the one thing I would recommend is utilize your power cord a little bit better. And you're probably able to do more damage in this fight. Another thing that you can do to maximize your DPS in this fight, if you're really looking to push boundaries, because, I mean, your log is good, right? You're probably just looking to parse a little bit better. You can drain soul the ads that are low, especially in phase 1 and 2 when there's not as many targets to dot. You can drain soul ads when they're low to get additional shards to pump back into the boss. You can actually UA the ads when they're when they spawn and they're gonna die, and you're gonna get the refund from the shard anyways. So that's free UA damage you can get. Basically, what I'm trying to get you to do is just get more damage out of your UAs than you are by casting more UAs and by getting more shards back via either drain soul or by casting UAs on ads and just having that shard refunded to you, right? So that's what I would recommend you work on Botanist. This is another Botanist parsed, but an entirely different build. This guy's running Wrath and Agony, Absolute Corruption, Soul Harvest, Soul Effigy, so he's running Soul Harvest instead of Siphon Life. Now, if you are running Soul Harvest, it could be better to run Contagion and Soul Conduit. Not 100% sure, though. Either way. How much damage did you do on this pull? You were able to do 731,000 DPS. So let's look at this. Buffs. Soul Harvest. Your fight was 4 minutes and 54 seconds. So you just one there. 2 minutes. Yeah, okay, that's fine. You had 3 Soul Harvest usages. Um, let's just do this. Soul Harvest. Holy crap, dude. You had the worst Deadwind Harvester RNG I've seen in a long time. 25% Deadwind Harvester stacks. That's pretty crappy, but you did do the best that you could with it, so that's good for you. Yeah, so the things that I could recommend you work on, probably maintain your Wrath of Consumption for longer. You definitely can. There's definitely enough ads to where you can have it chained for a longer period of time. There's like super long durations where you're like mixing out on the buff, but your Soul Harvest and your Deadwind usages are good. Honestly, you would have done really good damage on this boss, but I'm not gonna lie, your Deadwind Harvester uptime just sucked, which is just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. If we're to look at your casts, your agonies are like all over the place, but that's just gonna happen sometimes. With regards to your UAs, yeah, I mean, it looks good. Here, you cast Soul Harvest and you don't even get that many UAs out, especially when you're running a Wrath and Agony build. You want to make sure that when you are stacking your Wrath of Consumption, or sorry, when you're stacking your Soul Harvest and you're stacking your Reap, you want to make sure that you're just casting like 5 UAs every time because you have the ability to, right? It's not like there's any point in the fight where you want to be using UAs on their own unless you're shard capped or you just need to get them out for globals. When you're running a build like Soul Harvest, you have to make sure that when you're popping that Soul Harvest ability, you're casting like 5 UAs like back to back to back to back. You really need to make sure that you're casting so many UAs every single time. So basically, if I take away Reap Soul and I see your Soul Harvest cast, after every single Soul Harvest, I should see like 5 UAs, right? And when I click on it, I don't, right? You really need to be casting way more UAs with your Soul Harvest, either before or after. But honestly, this isn't bad. You didn't do a bad job. You could be doing a lot better next time if you have more Reap. That's just unfortunate. But yeah, you need to be making sure you're stacking UAs a little bit more cleanly, like this guy was. Like, remember the first log I reviewed where the guy was stacking all of his UAs together? That's what you want to be doing. He could have done like a little bit more spacing on some of them, but in general, that clumping is very, very good to do. So you definitely want to be seeing that with a log like this, especially when you're running Absolute Corruption. So that's what I can recommend you improve on here. So yeah. Nice, my Warlock is stronger than Hakunu. Poor Hakunu. Do you only do Affliction? I could probably do Demonology as well. I'm not that comfortable with that show, but I could do demo logs too. Okay. Oh. Quibus. Cubis. Golden Heroic. You wiped. That's fine. No big deal. You ended up doing 443k DPS. Your log doesn't look that bad though. For your gear, you have 54 traits, so you probably should be able to do a little bit more, even though your legendaries obviously aren't ideal. You should be able to do more than 400k for sure, so let's look and see what you can do a little bit better on this fight. You had 37% Reap Up time, which is actually quite good. You're getting your Deadwind Harvester from the ads, that is also quite good. I bet... okay. Your Drain Up time, man. I think there's been like 5 or 6 logs I've reviewed tonight on Gul'dan where people have like 19% Drain Up time, okay? Like, look at all the top logs for Gul'dan. Everyone has over 40% drain up time. If you want to do well on Gul'dan, you need to up your guys' drain soul up time. Even if you're doing mechanics, there's no excuse for 18% drain soul up time. Even if you're doing mechanics, I'm not even gonna lie, okay? So yeah, really make sure that you're trying to up this drain soul up time. And the way you're gonna do that best is by not panicking. Understand when mechanics are gonna happen. Understand when you're gonna be able to get your cycles in, and making sure that you're actually getting them off, okay? When we look at your UA casts, they're really sporadic. They're all over the place, right? Like, there's no clear definition of when you're doing your cycles, right? This is one of the few places in your log where I can find that you're doing good UA drain cycles, but this is like the only point, like right here, sorry. Right here in the fight. Your whole boss fight should look like this. But in situations like this, especially at the beginning where you're like all over the place, and even at the end, you really need to have this even spacing of your UAs. That's where you're going to find yourself doing the most DPS. But your drain up subtype is just not enough, man. It's just not enough. I mean, there's a portion here where you don't even cast drain after casting your UAs during Lust. your damage done during Lust, you aren't able to get above like 600k during Lust, right? You really need to make sure you're optimizing around Lust. Whether it be with Reap Souls, I mean, you do use it as soon as Lust happens, but you really need to make sure that you're getting those UA drains in during Bloodlust. So, to me, what it seems like you're trying to do is during Bloodlust, you're just trying to cast a crap load of UAs, but the problem is, it's better to just do consistent bursts with your UAs than to try to cast a crap load of them and just get kind of fucked on DPS, right? So that's definitely something you can be improving here. Make sure you guys are getting your drain up time on Gul'dan. Very, very, very important. But yeah, with regards to UAs, just like make sure stuff like this isn't happening. Like this is just weird, right? It doesn't make sense. You're just like casting UAs to cast them, it looks like here, and you're not even getting good drain up time on them. So it's just not worth doing, right? It's better just to do like a 2-stack drain, 2-stack drain than have this sort of mess happening, right? And even here, like casting like 4 UAs at once and then draining, I mean, it's not the best thing ever. It's not the worst thing, but it's definitely something you can improve on. So the main thing I would recommend for you to look at, man, especially on this log, is improve your drain up time and improve your Lust DPS. And you're just going to be doing this by doing consistent dumps, okay? Just consistently casting your UAs and consistently getting your damage out there. Alright, this is Plenty O'Toole. He did 564,000 DPS, 62,000 DPS. He was running the standard build for this boss. His legendaries are good. He has 54 traits, so you could probably do way more than 500k with your gear, especially, man. But we'll see what happened. I mean, I guess you died, eh? That's probably what happened. You ended up dying. That's unfortunate. So, if we look at your buffs, your reap up time was extremely high for your legendaries, so that's good. Your potting... Wait, is this when you guys left? Damn, you guys had a long-ass phase 3. Holy shit. Alright, anyways. Anywho, your UA casts look decent. Your drain up time was kind of bad. Even if we look at the portion of the boss fight where you were alive, your drain up time is 27%. It's just not enough. I'm only looking at the portion of the boss where you were alive right now, and even during the portions where you were alive, your drain soul up time still isn't even that high. You're casting... Oh, whoops. Uptime percent. Oh, shit. What is it? Cast. You are draining after your UAs, which is good, but I feel like, I guess there just must be too much spacing between. Like, I don't even know why your drain soul uptime is so low, but, maybe there's just, like, too much spacing between your UAs. You just need to get your cycles off more cleanly. But, I mean, like, this kind of stuff is fine, right? Where you're doing your 3 and then drain and then 2 and then drain or whatever. Like, that's all good. Like, let's just look at this section of the fight. Your drain up time is 34%, so it's a little better here, right? But there's, like, gaps in the fight and stuff where you're not even doing anything, which is kinda... Yeah. So, just work on getting higher drain up time. You guys really, really need to get up to, like, the 30 to 40% drain up time before you're going to start seeing really good DPS. Really, really need to get up there. Your seed casts are fine. You're using it with the eyes. That's all good and dandy. Let me see what you were doing to the ads. So, yeah, you're maintaining your dots in the ads when they spawn. Make sure when the ads are spawning, you're not maintaining Siphon Life and Corruption on both of them. Only one of them. If you're dotting all of the ads, you're spending too many globals doing that. If you're spending too many globals dotting the ads, you're not getting enough time to drain. So think about it like this, right? With Effigy, you only dot the Effigy with Agony. Same thing on multi-target. If you have multi-target where there's an ad and there's, there's 2 ads out, you really only want to be agonying the ads and focusing on your draining, okay? So that's another really, really important thing to note. But yeah, definitely can improve your parse by casting Drain Soul way more. Way more Drain Soul uptime. You're trying to understand what's going on, you're still leveling your Warlock to play Affliction? It'll be hard for you to understand what's going on. It's going to be hard for you to understand what's going on when you don't even know like what all the abilities are and stuff. I'd recommend leveling your Warlock first and start getting some experience on boss fights before you try to understand a Warcraft log. It'll probably be fairly difficult for you to understand a Warcraft log if you've never looked at them before and if you've never experienced doing it. Is it better if you are using Contagion to channel 2 Drain Souls and let UA fall off, or should we interrupt the second cast to refresh UA for extra damage? It's better to just channel 2 Drain Souls and let them fall off. You're not trying to maintain uptime on UA. Can you review my Destro logs? I'm not sure if I could do Destro. I could probably look at it and make some tips, but I don't have a good idea of Destro. Lock die. So this is Krosic Mythic. He was able to do 709,000 DPS, which is really good. He has decent legendaries. He's running Soul Effigy. Interesting talent choice. Your buff up time, you had 45% Reap. Your damage done was good. Let's see your casts. So, I mean, this looks like a really good log, honestly. Looks like you did a really good job overall. Yeah, it looks like you did a really good job. You were making sure that you were corruptioning the ads when they spawn in order to get your Wrath of Consumption. You were UAing at a consistent rate, which is really, really important to do when you are running Soul Effigy. I mean, this is a good log. The only thing that I could maybe recommend is getting a little bit more time on Drain Soul, but I mean, it is Mythic. Mechanics could hit you. Whatever. This is a good log, though. You did good DPS. Yeah. Very good. This is a good log. You kind of got unfortunate during your Bloodlust. You only had a little bit of Reap, but overall throughout the fight, it was good. The one recommendation I could make you is you use all your Reap stack here, and then you pot here. It's kind of backwards, right? If you want to use all your Reap, which is fine. I understand you were saving Reap for a long time, because you have a lot of it here. Just pot. You don't have to wait for the boss to be under 25% health to pot. Just use it when you're using all of this Reap, right? I mean, you have so much uptime on this Reap, and then during your pot, it's just sad Bible thumbs of just little baby Reaps, right? If you were able to line these up together, you would have done a lot more damage during this time. So that's probably something that you could do next time if you're just thinking about, saving Reap for pot. If you're just gonna pop like 30 or 40 seconds of Reap when the boss is at 40%, just fucking second pot. Just do it. Just get the damage out there, man. But overall, this is good. Like, this is really good UA spacing. This is what you guys all want to see when you do your log. You want to see nice spacing on your UAs like this. Like, constant 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. It's a little more consistent for him to be casting more UAs because he is playing Soul Effigy. But still, it's a very good log, man. Very good job. You did really well. Shut the dog up. Oh, I'm sorry. Poor puppy, dude. Poor dog. He's sad. He's sad because someone's outside and he can't play with them and you guys are just shitting on his life. Woo! Oh god, they're going ham. Do you guys want me to go tell them to be quiet? They're going ham, dude. 1 second. I'm gonna go tell them to relax a little bit. So what can you do to say parse over 90%? Parsing over 90% might be a little bit of an RNG thing, but if you really want to parse over 90%, you just have to make sure, one, you just need really good RNG with Fatal Echoes. 2, I would probably run Soul Conduit, and, I mean, maybe just more gear, I don't know. But either way, let me go tell my dogs to be a little bit quiet, because they're just going ham. Benji! Enough. No. Enough. Benji. Enough. Okay. I told them to be quiet. So you only want us to agony our Soul Effigy? Yes, I do only want you to agony your Soul Effigy. Overall, though, this was a good pull. This was a good pull for you. You did really well. All right, let's look at this. Late, but we in it, boys. Okay. So this is a Chillax Mythic kill. Your Drain Soul uptime is decent. Your average UA cast damage is super low, though. Let's look at your gear. So, your gear's good. The only reason your mastery is kind of low is because of your Erratic Metronome and your Whispers in the Dark. That's just unfortunate. Obviously, this ring is pretty shit. I'd really recommend you go try to farm a new ring, whether it be from Maw Souls. Darkheart Thicket is definitely the best place to go and do that, but I would try to farm yourself a new ring because this is honestly holding you back a lot. Getting a ring with like Mastery Haste on it and Mastery Crit would really up your DPS quite a bit. Same with your bracers. If you're able to get like bracers from Spellblade, be another really big upgrade for you, for sure. Either way, we won't worry too much about your gear. How much damage did you do? 587,000 DPS. So your damage isn't really that bad considering your gear. This fight is a little bit difficult. Overall, I think you did a reasonable job. Sometimes you're only like casting one UA here, which is just unfortunate. It probably has to do with movement on the boss. Some general tips I can recommend for this boss on a mythic difficulty for Trillax. When he's doing like the whole like, like beam coming out of his ass and his face thing, make sure that you're not really UAing too much during that time because you're just losing a lot of value. Maybe like cast 1 or something when he's doing that. But for the most part, you just want to be refreshing your dots and getting your mana back. So basically the flow of the fight with Malefic Grasp is you dot the boss, you UA him, you do your drain cycles, whatever. He's about to go on his ass beaming phase, so you want to make sure that you have low mana and you finish your last cycle when he jumps into the middle of the room and does the annihilation, okay? And since you're low on mana and since your dots are falling off, you can use that time when he's doing his zoomer around the middle of the room to refresh your mana, refresh your dots, and get fully pandemic dots, so that once he's done that, you can step back and cast your UAs and get that damage off, right? So yeah, obviously be trying to utilize the amount of instants that you can use when he's doing that. Not only that, you never really... So it starts there. Okay. Oops. What is this? Agony. So when the imprint is out, you don't want to be dotting both of them, okay? Just dot one of them. You're trying to dot both of them. Like you're agonying, siphon lifing, and corruptioning both the imprint and Trillax. When the ad spawns, don't worry about maintaining corruption and siphon life on Trillax. Just worry about agony only, maintaining your 10 stack, and then dotting the imprint with corruption and siphon life. So basically, once the imprint spawns, treat Trillax as if it was an effigy. Dot the imprint, and then do your UA cycles on it until it's dead, and then go back to doing your single target rotation on Trillax, and that's probably going to help you overall. So that's the major tip I can give you on this fight. Work on the movement, and not only working on the movement, but when the imprint comes out, treat it as a single target portion of the fight, okay? The raffle is over. These are the last logs that I'm doing for the day, and then it will be done. It'll be done. I'll do another log review again sometime, though, so don't feel too bad. All right, we're on the last 3. So Spellblade normal, and then some Chronomatic Anomaly mythics. So this is Quip's log. He did 777k DPS, which is decent. Let's see how he can improve this a little bit. So if we look at his gear, he's using Crit Haste Mastery. Very single targety gear. You're running an AoE spec. Okay. Again, I have to make the whole big dick, little dick thing, man. Like, just compare, right? When the ads spawn, you guys need to make sure that you're using Seed of Corruption to its maximum efficiency. You guys are talenting into Seed of Corruption and not even using it like you should. Okay? Compare. Compare. Right? Like, these are my seed casts during the ice phase. These are yours, right? Like, you need to make sure that literally you have your dots refreshed on the boss, you cast a couple agonies on the ads, and then you just literally go fucking ham with Seed of Corruption. If we're looking at damage done, my seed damage is 71 million. Your seed damage is 27 million, right? I mean, obviously gear and a longer fight will have more to deal with that. But with regards to proportionate, right? 17% of your damage, mine was 20%. And look at my burst, right? I burst up to 2 million here. You're bursting up to like 1.5 mil. You're getting close to 2 mil here a little bit, but my like bursts are much bigger and much longer than yours, right? So you really, really need to work on these windows here, here, and here, okay? So that's one thing I really recommend you to work on, man, is when the boss is transitioning, into the ice phase, the ice adds, make sure that you are saving your Seed of Corruption casts for these moments, right? Compare again, right? It's just such a big difference between me and you. And I'm not overlapping my UAs with this scenario, right? Like my UAs are happening outside of this. Like this is good. This is good. This is questionable. Right? But yeah, make sure that you're doing that for sure. Make sure that you're doing that for sure. Why are these both green? Weird. So yeah, what I'd recommend to you to do on this fight is make sure that you're saving a bunch of shards here so that when the icy adds do spawn, you agony a few of them and then just spam Seed of Corruption. It'll help your damage out a lot. The single target out of that, I think you're doing fine. I think you're doing okay. So yeah. Bigger and longer. Exactly. Remember how I spam my Drain Well on ads, and Spellblade I spam my Seed more? Yeah. At least I learned Draysol has to have high uptime, and those who don't spam Seed on Spellblade have a small dick. Yeah, pretty much. Alright. Oh, this is me. Alright, the last two logs. Chronomatic Anomaly Mythic. This is a Russian man. I do not know how to pronounce your name, so I will not even attempt. He did 770,000 DPS. That's pretty good. This is Undead Force on Mythic again. He did 690,000 DPS. So let's compare these logs side to side, okay? Let's just look at some differences between the two. So, as we can note here, the main differences between these two logs is basically they're the exact same length. The main difference, honestly, like this is basically the same as this. I mean, this is a little bit thicker, right? Like this isn't as thick as this, but I mean, basically these are the same, right? These is the same as this, and this is the same as this. The main difference is the end DPS, which, you know, may or may not be to do whatever reason, but we'll analyze this a little bit further, okay? Your drain uptime is decent. This guy's, okay, look at the difference, okay? 16% drain uptime versus 34% drain uptime, okay? And the DPS difference was 100,000, okay? So, obviously, one thing we can instantly note that Undead Force needs to work on is his drain uptime. 16% is not enough. Needs to be way more than that. Alright, that's my song. So yeah, let's look at casts. So we see here he's doing, you know, the whole 3 UA thing with the draining. This is just due to the movement. So he's just casting like 1 UA and then draining and then moving, casting 1 UA, draining and then moving. This is when the ad is transitioning, boss is transitioning from one of the ads to the other, I'm assuming. So one recommendation I can make for you, Mr. Russian Man, is preemptively set your movement on this. So when you kill the ad and the boss is about to move back towards the other side, towards the other ad, if you make sure your gateway is set up to where you can move even further towards the ad on the right side of the room or whatever side you guys are going towards, you're going to be able to make it so you're not able to do these 1 stacks. You're actually going to be able to do like cast 2 UAs and fully drain them and then move and refresh your dots. Obviously it's during the slow phase, so you're not trying to optimize DPS anyways. Not the biggest of deals. Here's where you're casting your Seed of Corruption for the ads. So that's always good to do, right? On the mini ads, if you can get your seeds off and then get the damage bonus from that, that's really, really good. Wasn't a bad log. This is pretty good overall. I think you did really well for your item level and for your gear. Your mastery is extremely high. I'd probably recommend getting some other stats, whether it be crit or haste. It probably might benefit you a little bit more. But either way, your casts are pretty good. Your UAs are well spaced. You're getting decent drain off on them, which is good. You just, if you're able to like maximize this little portion of the fight a little bit better and maximize especially this portion of the fight a little bit better, these are the movement parts, you're going to find yourself doing a lot more damage overall. But this was a good parse. I'm not going to lie. This was good. You did a good job. All right, Mr. Undead Force. Not enough drain, bruh. Not enough drain. Your UA stacking looks fine. You're kind of high on soul shards for like a really long time though, eh? Like you're capped on shards here for such a long time. You're not even casting UAs. You need to make sure that you're not getting capped on shards, okay? I mean, even if you have to move and you have to dump a UA, and I get on your case for not draining it, being shard capped is even worse. So you have so many shards that are just going to waste during this portion of the boss fight that if you're able to, you know, go this whole minute right here and able to do more than, you know, like 100k DPS, if you're able to up this whole portion here up to like 500k, your overall would have been crazy higher, right? So make sure that you're not getting shard capped. Make sure that if you do, like, you know, even if you have the frost bomb on you, right, just make sure that you just dump those UAs, go and take your frost or time bomb out, and then come back in. Don't get yourself in a situation where you're remaining shard capped for so long. It's just something that can't happen, right? You have to make sure that you're using your UAs on a consistent basis to where this isn't happening, okay? Yeah, not only that, just drain up time. Drain up time is way too low. Way too low. This whole phase where you're not doing any damage for like a whole minute is just not good. You really need to make sure that you're doing that. But yeah, your seed casts are fine. You're getting the Wrath of Consumption. All the way up to here, your fight was really good. All the way up to here, you're doing extremely well. It's just from this portion of the fight onward where it just kind of goes to potato because you only have 1% drain soul uptime, right? Like here, everything's going well. You have 23% drain uptime, which is way higher than your total, right? It's from here on out that kind of fucks you, where you really just did not do any damage for the last, you know, 2 minutes of the fight. So that's what I would recommend you to improve on. If you have 5 shards, 2 UAs in the target with 3 seconds left, do you drain the ones or cast new UAs? If my Corruption and Agony are still on the target, I would continue to drain. If the Corruption and Agony were off the target, I would refresh my dots and then cast the UAs and then go with a drain cycle. If you do more damage on the movement, I doubt you'll be able to get 90% logs. Basically, for Chronomatic Anomaly, to get a 90% log, you need to have crazy RNG because so many locks have killed it. So to get a Parsing Chronomatic Anomaly, you need to have really good Fatal Echo RNG, really good Reap Soul uptime, but also you need to do more damage on the movement part. You'd probably be able to get at least 85% though. 90% is a gearing and RNG thing more so than anything though. But I mean, other than that, you're playing pretty good. Okay? It's hard to see everything, but 17 shards wasted just from Agony regen? Yeah. You're wasting too many shards is the only thing. Yitch told me shadow damage over perdition. Shadow damage is better than perdition if you're low on crit. But perdition is the best currently, for the most part. I mean, I have a YouTube video about relics. Go check it out. But yeah, how did you calculate the Fatal Echoes? So you multiply your UA casts by 4, because each UA ticks 4 times, and then any extra ticks, you just divide by 4, and that will tell you how many Fatal Echoes you got. The log review is over. This is the end, dude. This is the end. I went 11 minutes overtime. Yeah, Major. So yeah, that is the end of the log. I'm done for now. I'll do another one. Let's schedule another log review stream for the 26th tentatively. So if you guys like this, the next one will be on the 26th of March. So be here or be square. I'll give you guys another 2 weeks to get logs. General tips for Crosis Mythic. So for Crosis Mythic, what I would recommend you do is, make sure you pre-plan your movement for the beams. Make sure you get yourself to a low shard count before he does the, ember burning thing where he does like the fire on the ground, you have to go soak. Corruption the ads to get Wrath of Consumption. Make sure your dots don't fall off Crosis. When you have the Wrath of Consumption, make sure you use Reap to get that additional benefit when you pump into the boss after the ads die. And that's about it. 24-hour log review stream. That'd be way too much, man. My brain would get fried. My brain would actually just become fried. For Gul'dan Heroic, I would just run the Soul Conduit, Siphon Life, Contagion build with Malefic Grasp. Well, I mean, Fatal Echoes isn't the only thing, right? It's also Soul Conduit RNG, and having high shards the entire fight makes a big difference too. Tichondrius Mythic, you can either run AoE or single target. It depends what your guild is struggling with. If you guys are struggling with ads, run AoE. If you guys are struggling with killing the boss before he enrages, run single target. Just make sure that you're using the Wrath of Consumption from the ads the best you can to refund into the boss. But yeah. Did you review any Destro logs today? Nah. Either way, guys, that's it for me. I'll be back later tonight, stream my Mythic Raid, but for now I gotta go. I'm gonna go eat some lunch and take a small nap because I'm really tired. Review my 11 hours straight of Gul'dan heroic attempts. End on the healing parse. All right, we'll just look at it. Healing. Look at this god, dude. 200k heals per second on Gul'dan heroic. This warlock is more powerful than any other warlock we will ever know. As we can see, Prydez is OP. Anyways, thanks, man. No problem. Slack up here. Have a good one, man. All right, I'm gonna head out, guys. Have a good one. I'm gonna be back later tonight if you want to chill with the Mythic stream. I'm not sure how many bosses I'll be doing, but I'll be here. Anyways, have a good one, guys. See y'all later. Peace out, bros.